Chapter 30:29. Afterwards, Jianqin learnt about the Moon God Hall from He Qianqi. However, the information he obtained was basically the same as what He Qianqian had told him in the Dark Star World. It was just that the Hall Master of the Moon God Hall, Nanpatian, had been hunted down by the Empyrean Demon Lord. Even though he had fled into the Ice Goddess Hall, he was still unable to escape death. However, He Qianqi hesitated again when he mentioned Nanpotian's fate. He added, "However, Nanpatian is quite a shrewd person, and the Flame Reverend values him greatly. Although he has only become a Grand Prime recently and is only a first Heavenly Layer Grand Prime, his status in the Flame Reverend's heart is even more important than some veteran Grand Primes. Moreover, Nanpatian possesses many treasures from the Flame Reverend. As a result, it's really hard to say whether Nanpatian is dead or not. This is because the Empyrean Demon Lord chased after Nanpatian when he fled into the Divine Hall, but only the Empyrean Demon Lord emerged in the end. As a result, many of us believed that Nanpatian was dead. After all, under normal circumstances, it would have been impossible for Nanpatian to escape from the Empyrean Demon Lord with his strength as a first Heavenly Layer Grand Prime. You suspect that Nanpatian is still alive?" Jianqin's eyes suddenly narrowed. He Qianqi shook his head. "I don't know. After all, Nanpatian has only just become a peak expert. Apart from the Flame Reverend behind him, our Tianhe clan doesn't take him seriously at all. As a result, we can't be bothered to investigate some of his matters." "Then what about the fairy Haoyue of the Moon God Hall?" Jianqin followed up with a question. "Our Tianhe clan did not pay too much attention to the information regarding the previous Moon God's daughter. After all, it hasn't risen to a level where it could attract our attention. If Qianqian hadn't specifically asked for this information from the family, and the family had sent someone to collect it, I'm afraid we wouldn't even know about the existence of the Moon Goddess daughter." He Qianqi said, "The Tianhe clan was just too powerful on the Ice Pole Plane. They had more than one Grand Prime ancestor. With such a great organization, they would not take the Moon God Hall seriously at all. This was because the Moon God Hall could only be regarded as a second-rate organization on the Ice Pole Plane before Nanpatian appeared. Even their greatest expert, the Moon Goddess, was only a chaotic prime. How could such a force draw too much attention from the Tianhe clan?" Then Jianqin asked a few more questions and obtained a lot of useful top-secret information from He Qianqi. All in all, it was a fruitful trip. "I still have one last condition. I hope that the senior in the Tianhe clan who has extremely high attainments in the way of alchemy can teach me the way of alchemy." Jianqin raised his last question. He Qianqi finally let out a sigh of relief when he heard Jianqin raise all his conditions. He smiled happily and said, "I can't decide for the ancestor. I can't make the decision for the old ancestor, but I will pass on your conditions. I believe that the old ancestor will consider the 5 gene of divine blood soil, so it shouldn't be a problem." Very soon they reached an agreement. After recording a memory crystal as evidence, Jianqin gave the 3 kilograms of soil of god blood to He Qianqi. He Qianqi was unable to contain his excitement after obtaining the soil of god blood. After bidding farewell to Jianqin in a hurry, he hurried back to the Tianhe clan with He Qianqin. 3 kilograms of soil of god blood. That's 3 kilograms of soil of god blood. Just how many cauldrons of ancestral blood pills will we be able to refine with that? This is just far too significant for our Tianhe clan. I have to report this to the ancestor immediately." He Qianqi was extremely excited as he made his way back. He was so excited that his face had reddened. At that very moment, in the deepest part of the Tianhe clan, there were 3 figures gathered in a magnificent upper-class divine hall that was emitting a vast amount of pressure. All 3 of them shone with dazzling divine light. Strands of heavenly law transformed into rays of light that circled around them, varying in strength. The 3 of them were the 3 Grand Primes of the Tianhe clan. At the same time, They were the Poseidon needles of the Chinha clan. The Tian sect wants to use a kilogram of soil of god blood to exchange for a kilogram of profound Isis god iron from our Chinha clan. What do you think? One of the 3 ancestors of the Chinha clan asked gently. Her voice was clear and melodious. It was obvious that she was a young woman from her voice. A letter made from an unknown material hovered between the 3 of them. Just how precious is the profound Isis god iron? Even our Chinha clan only has a single kilogram of it. Yet the Tian sect wants to use a mere kilogram of soil of god blood to exchange for it. That's just far too overbearing. The Tian sect is so overbearing. The person in their sect must be close to breaking through to the 6th heavenly layer and formally reaching the 7th heavenly layer. Once they reach the 7th heavenly layer, our Chinha clan won't be able to contend against them. Sigh, it's a pity that the ice goddess and the snow goddess aren't here. Otherwise, even if the Tian sect was 100 times bolder, they wouldn't dare to act so recklessly. We can't compromise on this matter because this is no longer a matter of benefits. It's a matter of the dignity of our Chinha clan. If the Tian sect really wants to fight, then let's fight. At worst, the 3 of us can just consume ancestral blood pills and undergo ancestral awakening before casting the crane ancestor god formation together. It's not like we don't have the power to fight against a 7th heavenly layer. The 3 ancestors of the Chinha clan all spoke out. From their voices, one of them was a young woman, a middle-aged man, and an old man. They were of different ages. The Tian sect has more than one ancestor. Even if the 3 of us can stall one, who's going to deal with the other ancestors? At this moment, the young woman's voice rang out. However, if we consume 3 ancestral blood pills at once and borrow the power of ancestral awakening, I'm confident that we can stall a 7th heavenly layer expert for an hour. If we use forbidden techniques at all costs, we might even be able to injure him to a certain extent. However, the ancestral blood pills require soil of god blood to refine. Without soil of god blood, the ancestral blood pills would have no need to fear such medicinal properties. Hearing that, the old man added, "Ancestral blood pills without soil of god blood can only increase our strength by a portion. Moreover, every time we consume them, we'll fall into a period of weakness for a period of time. On the other hand, ancestral blood pills with soil of god blood can not only increase our battle prowess by a heavenly layer, they won't leave behind any drawbacks. There won't be a period of weakness. It's just that divine blood soil is extremely difficult to obtain. Although the family has some ancestral blood pills refined from divine blood soil, after taking into account the consumption over the years and the deterioration in their quality due to being stored for too long, the family doesn't have much left." Chapter 3030. The 3 ancestors of the Chinha clan were in an intense discussion. Their voices were gloomy. It was clear that the Tianzong sect was putting a lot of pressure on them. At this moment, the ancestor with a beautiful voice sighed faintly. "Tianzong, oh, Tianzong, if you want the mystic ice divine metal, put down your lofty status and use something of equivalent value to negotiate with our Chinha clan. It's not like our Chinha clan can't give the mystic ice divine metal to you. But you're being so overbearing, using an almost humiliating price to negotiate with our Chinha clan. How can our Chinha clan do as you wish? Otherwise, where will the dignity of our Chinha clan be? Or perhaps the Sky sect has an ulterior motive this time. Their true goal is not the mysterious ice divine metal, but they are using the mysterious ice divine metal as a pretext to make a fuss and have other plans?" The other 2 ancestors shuddered when they heard that. However, after thinking about it carefully, that was not entirely impossible. The urgent matter at hand is to gather as much soil of divine blood as possible and refine a batch of ancestral blood pills as soon as possible. As long as we have enough ancestral blood pills, we'll be able to keep the Tianzong sect in check even if they're plotting something, the elderly ancestor said with a deep voice. It's just that our soil of divine blood comes from the world of the fallen beast. Now that we've lost the foundation of the world of the fallen beast, it won't be easy for us to obtain more soil of divine blood. Even if we buy it from other organizations, they'll only demand an exorbitant price and take advantage of us. The three ancestors of the Tianhe clan became worried when they talked about the soil of divine blood. He Qianqi wishes to see the ancestor for something important. At this moment, an old but excited voice rang out from outside. He Qianqi? What does he have to report now? But what could make him so excited? The three ancestors of the Tianhe clan had already seen through He Qianqi's current emotions. They were immediately puzzled. They had no idea what could make a great elder of the Tianhe clan so excited. He Qianqi was allowed to enter the temple. Inside the temple, He Qianqi bowed respectfully to the three patriarchs and said excitedly, "Patriarch Lan, Patriarch Stone, and Patriarch Heaven, this is a joyous occasion. This old man has something to report to the three patriarchs." He Qianqi bowed respectfully to each of the patriarchs as he called out their names. Among them, Ancestor Lan was the woman with the pleasant voice. Stone Ancestor, it was the middle-aged man's voice. As for the last ancestor with the old voice, he was the heavenly ancestor. He Qianqi, if you have something to say, just say it. We are curious as to what kind of joyous occasion could make a great elder of our Tianhe clan lose his composure like this, Ancestor Lan said. Her voice was gentle and extremely pleasant to the ear. Yes, Ancestor Lan. He Qianqi replied respectfully. With a flip of his hand, a large clump of divine blood soil appeared in his hand. Blue Ancestor, Stone Ancestor, Heaven Ancestor, please take a look at this. He Qianqi held the godly blood soil in his hands, his emotions surging. However, in the next moment, the godly blood soil in his hand strangely vanished, reappearing in Ancestor Lan's hand like it had teleported. The three ancestors of the Tianhe clan all stared at the godly blood soil as their presences pulsed. This is godly blood soil? How could there be so much divine blood soil? He Qianqi, where did you obtain this godly blood soil from? The heaven ancestor was speechless. Right now, the Tianhe clan was in desperate need of godly blood soil to contend against the Tian sect, yet such a large clump of it had suddenly appeared. Even as a grand prime, the heaven ancestor struggled to maintain his composure from this unexpected joy. Naturally, I obtained this godly blood soil from an exchange with someone else. However, that person has made some requests, and I can't make a decision on some of them. So I need the ancestors to decide, He Qianqi said proudly. He Qianqi said proudly. He knew that it was a great contribution to his family to obtain so much soil of divine blood. What requests did they make? The hearts of the three ancestors of the Tianhe clan sank slightly when they heard the word requests. Clearly, they were extremely sensitive. They were afraid that the other party would make some unreasonable requests. They made 3 requests, and I've already fulfilled one of them. As for the remaining 2, one of them requires a large number of divine blood condensing pills, or pills that can recover essence blood, said He Qianqi. Divine blood condensing pills? Aren't those low-grade divine pills? He took out so much divine blood soil and actually wants to exchange it for a low-grade divine pill like the divine blood condensing pill from our Tianhe clan. When they heard about the divine blood condensing pill, the 3 ancestors of the Tianhe clan were all stunned. They were full of astonishment. It was not because the divine blood condensing pills were too valuable. It was the exact opposite. The Tianhe clan was powerful and had an alchemy grandmaster, so they could basically have as many divine blood condensing pills as they wanted. What about the last request? Ancestor Lan asked slowly. He Qianqi cleared his throat and looked at Ancestor Lan. He said, the last request is for Ancestor Lan to teach him alchemy. That's all? Ancestor Stone was stunned. Just these 3 conditions. Nothing else. He Qianqi said confidently, that's all? He's using 1.5 kilograms of godly blood soil to exchange for such little things? He Qianqi, you're not trying to fool us, are you? Ancestor Heaven's face was filled with doubt. How would I dare to fool Ancestor? It's just that the other party only made 3 requests, He Qianqi said with a bitter smile. Ancestor Lon was silent for a moment before he said, Who is the other party? He actually took out 1.5 kilograms of godly blood soil. Could it be that he doesn't know the value of the godly blood soil? Ancestor, I'm sure you've heard of this person before. He's that Yang Yutian who pretended to be the 7th Hall Master in the realm of the fallen beast and caused havoc in the Dark Star race. According to some of the information this old man possesses, Yang Yutian had quite the good relationship with a clansman of our clan by the name of He Qianchan in the Dark Star realm back then. The reason why he took out so much soil of divine blood this time is likely because of He Qianchan. He Qianqi said carefully, Yang Yutian, it's actually him. No wonder he has so much godly blood soil. In that case, He Qianchan has made a great contribution to the clan, Ancestor Lon murmured. Chapter 3031. Naturally, the Tianhe clan had no reason to turn down Jianqin's request. They agreed without any hesitation at all. This was because 5 kilograms of soil of divine blood was an astronomical price to the Tianhe clan. In particular, it was extremely important during such a sensitive period. On the other hand, none of the 3 conditions Jianqin proposed posed any difficulty to the Tianhe clan at all. As a matter of fact, they did not even need to pay a huge price to achieve it. As a result, the deal was basically like a pie falling from the sky to the 3 ancestors of the Tianhe clan, allowing them to benefit greatly. He Qianqi did not take all the credit for himself either. Under his great support, He Qianchan began to truly gain the trust of the ancestors of the clan. Even the status of He Qianchan's branch in the clan increased drastically. As a peak clan, the Tianhe clan had many people. The various factions were tangled and complicated, so there was obviously no lack of open and hidden strife within the clan. Through this matter, He Qianchan's branch, along with her father's generation, finally began to rise to prominence. That day, after He Qianqi gave the soil of divine blood to the 3 ancestors, he went to the treasury of the clan with the ancestors' letter. He took out a large number of divine blood pills and brought them out of the clan. Afterwards, he personally passed them to Jianqin. There's a total of 170 divine blood pills here. That's all that the clan has. Of course, this is only the first batch of divine blood coagulation pills. At present, our family is already collecting the materials to refine the divine blood coagulation pills. Once the materials are collected, the ancestor will immediately start refining the pills. The second batch will be delivered soon. He Qianqi smiled. He did not even frown when he handed out so many divine blood pills in one go. To the other top forces, if they wanted to take out so many shopping dan in one go, it would indeed be a huge loss. However, to the Tianhe clan, which had an alchemy grandmaster who could refine large batches of blood coagulation divine pills at any time, this was really nothing. The value of divine blood pills had always been high in the saints' world. Aside from the various materials required to refine them, the most important factor was that there were only so many alchemy grandmasters who could refine divine blood pills in the saints' world. Furthermore, one also had to consider the failure rate of refining pills. After handing over all the blood, congealing divine pills to Jianqin, He Qianqi continued, Also, regarding your request for Patriarch to personally guide you in concocting pills, Patriarch has agreed. The old ancestor personally said that you can head to the Sky Crane clan at any time. She will personally guide you. Jianqin could clearly feel that He Qianqi's attitude towards him had become much friendlier than before after he returned to Tianhe clan. However, he wasn't surprised because he was very clear about the value of the soil of divine blood. He had used 5 kilograms of soil of divine blood to exchange for this item from the Tianhe clan, so the Tianhe clan naturally profited greatly. and his purpose in doing so was naturally to seize the opportunity to help He Qianqian. With the blood-congealing divine pellet in his hands, Jianqin did not want to stay here any longer. After bidding farewell to He Qianqi, he left in a hurry. He wasn't in a hurry to learn alchemy from the Sky Crane clan's ancestor, because he had more important things to do, and that was to restore his primal chaos blood essence. Jianqin used the mask's effect to conceal his aura, then used the law of space to change his location multiple times in the extreme ice province. Finally, he entered a bustling city with an unfamiliar face. After temporarily renting a room, he prepared to restore his primal chaos blood essence. The great hermit lived in the city. He felt that cultivating in seclusion in the wilderness was not necessarily safer than cultivating in the bustling city. Next, Jianqin began a long period of seclusion to recover. He swallowed the blood-congealing divine pellets, one after another, transforming them into drops of primal chaos blood essence. Now that he had sufficient blood-congealing divine pellets, the primal chaos blood essence in Jianqin's body was gradually filling up. The loss of strength caused by the loss of primal chaos blood essence was also slowly recovering. Several months later, the first batch of blood-congealing divine pellets that Jianqin had obtained from He Qianqi had been completely depleted. Fortunately, He Qianqi had sent over the second batch of blood-congealing divine pellets in time. Only then could they keep up with Jianqin's consumption. There were only 100 blood-congealing divine pellets in the second batch. Although it was less than the first batch, it was more than enough for Jianqin. Finally, after consuming about 60% of the second batch of blood-congealing divine pellets, Jianqin's primal chaos blood essence finally recovered, allowing him to return to his peak condition. There were still over 30 blood-congealing divine pellets left. Jianqin, who was sitting cross-legged on the jade bed in the guest room enveloped by layers of formations, suddenly stood up. He could not help but reveal a victorious smile when he sensed the seemingly inexhaustible surging power in his body. He had been waiting for this day for far too long. The long-awaited feeling and great power had finally allowed him to regain the confidence that he could deal with anything. In the next moment, Jianqin suddenly vanished. He had left the inn without alarming anyone, leaving the bustling city. The Moon God Hall was rather renowned on the ice pole plain because they had produced Nan Patian. After Nan Patian became a Grand Prime, the Moon God Hall had successfully become one of the most powerful organizations on the ice pole plain. The Moon God Hall sat in a snowy plain of ice in the northern region of the ice pole plain. There were very few people there. Aside from the disciples of the Moon God Hall who came and went from time to time, there were very few outsiders. This Moon God Hall is actually a high-quality god artifact. At this moment, Jianqin had fused with space 100 kilometers away from the Moon God Hall. He hid himself perfectly as he carefully observed the pure white divine hall that stood silently on the icy plains. Just like its name, the Moon God Hall seemed to have been condensed from the moon in the sky. The entire divine hall shone with gentle moonlight, which glistened under the reflection of the ice and snow in the surroundings. Although it's a high-quality god artifact, it no longer possesses its former glory. The artifact spirit of the divine hall is no longer present. It's only an empty shell now. It's more symbolic than practical. Jianqin secretly rejoiced. A high-quality god artifact, without the artifact spirit, naturally posed less of a threat to him. At this moment, a divine king in the uniform of the Moon God Hall flew out from the divine hall. He flew off into the distance at a steady pace. Jianqin, who was hidden in space, immediately locked onto this person before silently tailing him. With his laws of space, which had reached the level of an 8th heavenly layer infinite prime, he was naturally unable to be sensed by a mere divine king. As a result, he followed the divine king for several tens of thousand kilometers. Only when he was far away from the Moon God Hall did he finally appear before the divine king. He gave off the presence of a peak divine king as he acted like he was hurrying towards the moon god hall. He just happened to run into the divine king of the moon god hall. Sir, are you a member of the moon god hall? Jian Chen was surprised. He clasped his fist towards the divine king of the moon god hall amicably. Don't you see my attire? Aside from the people of the moon god hall, who would dare to dress like that? The divine king of the moon god hall stared at Jian Chen coldly. He was clearly cautious. And who are you? Why have you stopped me? That's great. I've finally met a disciple of the moon god hall. Greetings, junior brother. My name is Umo, and I'm a disciple of the moon god. Thus, I'm technically your senior brother, Jian Chen said with a smile. Your master is the moon god? Are you the disciple of the South Hall master? Why haven't I heard of you before? The divine king of the moon god hall was filled with doubt. The South Hall master? Haha. Master's name is Umo, and I still don't know if master is the South Hall master that junior apprentice brother spoke of. However, I heard from master that he had already stayed in the small world where I was born for nearly 100,000 years. What? You're the disciple of the previous moon god? The divine king of the moon god hall was shocked when he heard that. Without any hesitation, he immediately took out a jade talisman from his space ring and crushed it. Junior, what are you doing? Jian Chen stared at the divine king's actions in doubt. A strange light appeared in the eyes of the divine king of the moon god hall. He said with a fake smile, since Senior is the disciple of the previous moon god, your identity is naturally extremely noble. Moreover, it's your first time returning to the moon god hall, so we naturally have to hold a grand welcoming ceremony. As a result, the elders of the moon god hall will personally accompany you. Please wait a moment, Senior. The elders of the moon god hall will personally come to welcome Senior back to the moon god hall. As he said that, the divine king sneered inside. He thought, regardless of whether your identity is real or fake, I have to treat anything related to the previous moon god seriously. This is something that the great elder has personally instructed me to do. Chapter 3032. You're far too polite, junior brother. Oh, right, I once heard from Master that he had a daughter. She seems to be called Fairy Haoyue or something. May I ask if Master's daughter is still around? Jian Chen continued to ask. The divine king immediately became even more enthusiastic when he heard Jian Chen mention Fairy Haoyue. He said in a hurry, you're right. The previous moon god did have a daughter who called herself Fairy Haoyue. However, due to the difference in status, junior brother obviously does not have the right to know about Fairy Haoyue. However, the elder will be here very soon. You can ask the elder. The elder will definitely know. As he said that, the divine king of the moon god hall became more and more excited. If he still doubted Jian Chen's identity as the moon god's disciple before, he believed most of it when Jian Chen mentioned Fairy Haoyue. In the moon god hall, any clue regarding the previous moon god would be a great contribution. Now, a person who claimed to be the disciple of the previous moon god had appeared before him for no reason. To the god king of the moon god hall, this was basically a pie that had fallen from the sky. This person has probably only appeared recently, or he has only come to the ice pole plain recently. He still doesn't know what has happened to the moon god hall in the past few years. The divine king of the moon god hall sneered inside. He looked at Jian Chen like he was looking at a corpse. That's right. In his eyes, Jian Chen was no different from a dead person. Very soon, a white-haired old man rushed over from the direction of the moon god hall. He gave off the presence of a fifth heavenly layer infinite prime. Ding Mao, you said you found clues regarding the previous moon god. Is that true? The old man asked the divine king of the moon god hall excitedly as soon as he arrived. Reporting to sixth elder, this disciple has indeed found clues about the previous moon god. This person claims to be the disciple of the previous moon god. Ding Mao was extremely respectful in front of the moon god hall's elders. The sixth elder's eyes immediately fell on Jian Chen. He could tell at a glance that the latter was at the peak of the divine king realm. His expression immediately turned cold. As a fifth heavenly layer infinite prime, any divine king was an ant in his eyes. Are you really the disciple of the previous moon god? The sixth elder scrutinized Genshin with a stern expression. The previous moon god. Hearing this, Genshin was confused. He said, I don't know if Master was the previous moon god or the current moon god. Anyway, Master said that he was the lord of the moon god hall in the ice pole state, which is the moon god. He never mentioned the previous or the current. Ha. Hearing Genshin's reply, the sixth elder raised his head and laughed. Then there's no mistake. When the previous moon god left, he was still the moon god palace master. The sixth elder's eyes suddenly became sharp, as if they had turned into steel needles, wanting to pierce Genshin's eyes and see all the secrets in his mind. At the same time, he shouted in a low voice, Where is your master now? Master is in a small world, but Master has strict orders that disciples are not allowed to divulge any information about him. I actually snuck out this time. Genshin seemed to be a little reserved, as if he had not seen much of the world. And you're not allowed to reveal your tracks? Ha, but it's not up to you now. The sixth elder sneered. With a flash, he arrived before Genshin. His old hand erupted with tremendous power, gripping Genshin's shoulder tightly like a pair of pliers. He sealed up all of Genshin's movements with his strength as a primordial realm expert. Go with the old man. Once you return to the moon god hall, tell me in detail where the previous moon god is hiding, the sixth elder sneered. He was about to directly leave with Genshin, but in the next moment his face suddenly changed. This was because he discovered to his surprise that the disciple of the previous moon god he had sealed up was actually as heavy as a mountain, let alone forcefully bringing him back to the moon god hall. Even if he used all his strength, he would not be able to move him at all. You dash! The sixth elder's eyes widened. They were filled with surprise and shock. Naturally, he understood what this meant. It clearly meant that his opponent's strength was on a completely different level from his. It looks like you're on Nan Potion's side. Genshin no longer continued with his disguise. Both his expression and gaze had become cold. With a gentle sigh, he waved his hand, and he, the sixth elder, and the divine King Ding Mao all vanished without a trace. 1,000,000 kilometers away, in a glacial valley that was far below the horizon, an intense cold current wreaked havoc there, forming a thick layer of icy mist that obscured the area. At this moment, there was a ripple in space, and Genshin silently appeared there with the sixth elder and Ding Mao. At the same time, a spatial barrier silently formed, isolating this region from the outside world. This is the absolute ice gorge. Why, you actually brought us from the vicinity of the moon god hall to the absolute ice gorge in an instant. Who are you? The sixth elder recognized this place with a single glance. Immediately, he was unable to maintain his previous composure and awe-inspiring bearing. His face paled, and he became unprecedentedly stern. What? This is the absolute ice gorge? The moon god hall in the absolute ice gorge is nearly 2,000,000 kilometers away. Ding Mao was also greatly frightened, and his heart was filled with fear. Until now, how could he not be able to tell that the identity of the person who claimed to be the disciple of the previous moon god was fake, and that the other party had truly come with ill intentions? I'm Fairy Haoyue's friend. Now that I've heard that she's in trouble, I've specially come to investigate. Genshin coldly stared at the sixth elder. His gaze was as sharp as a sword, piercing the sixth elder's eyes to the point that they faintly hurt. Answer my question truthfully. If you cooperate well, I might spare your life. Otherwise, you know very well what will happen to you. Before the sixth elder could speak, Ding Mao subconsciously opened his mouth and said in a trembling voice, Fairy Haoyue is already dead. Our moon god hall has Yan Zun behind us. However, as soon as Ding Mao reached there, his body exploded loudly, turning into a mist of blood. The sixth elder was quite frightened by this. Ding Mao was a divine king after all, yet his body had been destroyed for no apparent reason. Even he had failed to see how Jianqin had done it. No, it should be said that Jianqin had not done anything at all, nor had he done anything excessive. Ding Mao's body had just exploded for no reason. This strange sight made the sixth elder, a fifth heavenly layer infinite prime, shiver from the bottom of his heart. This was because he knew that even chaotic primes, let alone infinite primes, did not possess such an ability to kill people at an even higher level. In the eyes of chaotic primes, divine kings were like ants. They could kill them effortlessly, but they needed to move their fingers at the very least. But now he did not even move a finger, and a god king was gone just like that. The sixth elder gulped and forced himself to say, "Senior, you may be powerful and you may have killed Ding Mao, but there's something I must warn you about. Our moon god hall might be nothing on the ice pole plain, but we have Yenzun behind us. If you do this, you will offend Yenzun." "It looks like you don't want to cooperate," Jianqin said indifferently. Afterwards, he waved his hand, and dense strands of sword qi immediately condensed in the air, surrounding the sixth elder. After that, the countless sword qis seemed to have formed a huge meat grinder. As they revolved around the sixth elder's shrill screams could be heard. The sixth elder wanted to resist as hard as he could, but before Jianqin, an expert who could rival chaotic primes, he was just a fifth heavenly layer infinite prime. He seemed to be overestimating himself. Soon, the sixth elder's physical body was destroyed, leaving only a faint primordial spirit floating in the air. "I will never betray Yenzun. Even if you kill me, you won't be able to get any information from me. As for your friend, Fairy Haoyue, she's already died to the Hall Master's hands." "Ha!" the sixth elder said through his soul as if he did not fear death. "If that's the case, then you'll be tortured." Jianqin's voice became even colder. Afterwards, he used martial soul force to target the sixth elder's soul. Even though Jianqin's current martial soul force was still weak, so weak that it was nothing compared to his accomplishments in the way of the sword, his current martial soul force was nothing. However, martial soul force was naturally unique. It targeted the soul. Chapter 3033. As the black streak of light from Jianqin's martial soul force struck the sixth elder's soul, the sixth elder immediately produced a chilling cry. His soul trembled violently. Clearly, the pain from martial soul force on his soul was far greater than the pain from his body. At the same time as martial soul force specifically targeted the soul, the pain from the sixth elder's soul when he was struck by martial soul force was incomparable to regular attacks. Jianqin's current martial soul force was still weak. Coupled with the fact that Jianqin could control the strength of the martial soul force, the sixth elder's soul was not completely obliterated. However, the pain that came from the primordial spirit was simply worse than death. Sixth elder, cooperate obediently, and not only will you suffer less, but I can also guarantee you that I won't kill you. Jianqin smiled teasingly. He used martial soul force to attack the sixth elder's soul as he tried to tempt him with words. The sixth elder was an infinite prime after all. He was a member of the upper echelon of the Moon God Hall, so he naturally knew many secrets. He could kill Ding Mao without any hesitation at all, but he was reluctant to kill the sixth elder. Otherwise, it would not be so easy for him to capture a primordial realm expert of the Moon God Hall next time. "Ha ha ha ha, it doesn't matter who you are or what your background is. You won't be able to escape death if you dare to oppose our Moon God Hall. The Flame Reverend will never spare you." The sixth elder's soul said as he trembled. He was extremely stubborn. Jianqin sneered. "Then I'd like to see how long you can last." Jianqin made up his mind. He used martial soul force constantly, and it immediately caused the sixth elder to produce an earth-shattering cry. Just the cry alone was enough to make people's hairs stand on end. However, the cry was only limited to a small region. It was unable to break through the spatial barrier and reach the outside world. Even the artifact spirit of the medium-quality god artifact could only yield obediently under the ravaging of my martial soul force. I refuse to believe I can't deal with an infinite prime like you. However, compared to the artifact spirit of the medium-quality god artifact back then, the sixth elder clearly paled in comparison. After just 6 hours, he changed from his previous unyielding attitude and completely compromised. I'll talk. Please stop. Stop torturing me. I can't last any longer. I really can't last any longer. The sixth elder's soul sobbed. He was extremely weak. If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Let me ask you something. How is Fairy Haoyue right now? Has he really died like the rumors say? Jian Qin immediately began to interrogate him. I only know that the Hall Master personally went to hunt down Fairy Haoyue and engaged in a short battle with her. The final outcome is unknown. However, with the leader's strength, Fairy Haoyue's fate is obvious. Afterwards, Jian Qin asked many questions about the Moon God Hall. The sixth elder became obedient as well, answering all of Jian Qin's questions without holding back. Jian Qin learnt about the full strength of the Moon God Hall from the sixth elder, apart from the leader of the Moon God Hall, Nan Patian, who is rumored to have died to the Emperorian Demon Lord. The Moon God Hall possessed 7 chaotic primes and over 20 infinite primes. This kind of power was much stronger than when the previous Moon God was still alive. This was because some of the chaotic primes and infinite primes had only been absorbed after Nan Patian had become a grand prime. Although everyone says that our Moon God Hall's Hall Master has fallen, our Moon God Hall hasn't been shaken because of this. That's because almost all of the upper echelons of our Moon God Hall know that we have a peerless expert like Yan Zun behind us. Don't tell me the previous Moon God doesn't have any trusted aides? Jian Qin asked. There's no one left. The trusted aides from the past, all the people who did not submit to the leader of the South Hall, have all been purged aside from a great elder. Great elder? Tell me in detail. Jian Qin's face changed. He's called Yun Wufeng. Although he's not the strongest in the Moon God Hall, he's the most senior. Whether it's the previous Moon God or the leader of the South Hall, they've all received his guidance in the past. In other words, the great elder Yun Wufeng is half a master to them. The great elder Yun Wufeng has always stood firmly by the previous Moon God's side. However, perhaps because the leader of the South Hall was indebted to him in the past, the leader of the South Hall did not do anything to the great elder Yun Wufeng. She only imprisoned him in the Moon Burial Cave. The Moon Burial Cave is a type of prison set up in the depths of the Moon God Hall. As for the daughter of the previous Moon God, Fairy Haoyue, she was discovered because she had infiltrated the Moon Burial Cave in an attempt to save Yun Wufeng. Before long, Jian Qin left the Absolute Ice Gorge. He was the only one there. The sixth elder was nowhere to be seen. However, when Jian Qin appeared again, he had already assumed the appearance of the sixth elder. Not only was his appearance and presence the same, but even his attire was the same as the sixth elder's. Aside from the leader of the South Hall, the most powerful person in the Moon God Hall is the great elder Go Wanshan. He's a 7th heavenly layer chaotic prime. However, Go Wanshan has already left for many years. He seems to have gone elsewhere to deal with some urgent matter. Aside from Go Wanshan, the 2 great elders of the 5th and 6th heavenly layer chaotic primes of the Moon God Hall have gone out many years ago to investigate whether the leader of the South Hall is truly dead. As a result, only 4 of the 7 great elders remain in the Moon God Hall, including Yun Wufeng. The 6th elder's voice rang out in Jian Qin's head. Jian Qin fulfilled his promise. He did not kill the 6th elder. Instead, he allowed the 6th elder's soul to survive. Afterwards, he stored it in the 6th elder's head through a method akin to possession, hiding it temporarily. Of course, the 6th elder's extremely weak soul was unable to cause any trouble before Jian Qin. Very soon, Jian Qin swaggered into the Moon God Hall as the 6th elder. All the disciples of the moon god hall along the way bowed to Jianchen politely. "Greetings, sixth elder." Jianchen secretly communicated with the sixth elder. Through the sixth elder's guidance, he arrived in the core region of the moon god hall very soon. The rest of the region was where the elders resided. "Lead the way. I want to save Yun Wufeng," Jianchen said to the sixth elder. Chapter 3034. The secret medallion is the key. It can open the entrance to the moon burial cave. Aside from Great Elder Yun Wufeng, all the other great elders in our moon god hall possess one, said the sixth elder. "Do you have any methods to obtain the medallion from the great elders?" Jianchen frowned. That's probably a certain level of difficulty. Us elders usually don't go to the moon burial cave. If we go and ask for the medallion from the great elders rashly, it'll only raise suspicions, the sixth elder said in a troubled manner. A cold light immediately flashed through Jianchen's eyes when he heard that. He said, "Since we can't obtain the medallion through normal methods, we can only use abnormal methods to obtain it. The great elders of the Moon God Hall have all sided with Nan Patian anyway. They've become the enemies of Fairy Haoyue. Their deaths are nothing to be regretted. Sixth elder, find a way for me to approach the weakest great elder of the Moon God Hall." "Yes, senior. The weakest great elder of the Moon God Hall is Hong Maching. He's a first heavenly layer chaotic prime. He joined the Moon God Hall several thousand years ago under the invitation of the South Hall Master." The sixth elder's feeble soul hid in Jianchen's head, constantly providing him with various information regarding the Moon God Hall. Perhaps it was because he deeply feared Jianchen's martial soul force, which was why he did everything he could along the way. He did not dare to play any tricks at all. With the cooperation of the sixth elder who knew the Moon God Hall like the back of his hand, Jianchen's journey through the Moon God Hall was extremely smooth. Even when they passed by some checkpoints with powerful formations, the sixth elder would teach them how to open them. Only the elder's medallion can open up the 10th floor of the Moon God Hall and above. My space ring is with you, so take out my medallion. There are many forks at the end of the passage. Each path leads to a different area. We have to take the third path from the left. This is called the 1,000-level corridor. If you follow the corridor up, you will reach Grand Elder Hong Maching's place of seclusion. I am an elder of the Moon God Hall and have a very high position in the Moon God Hall. Thus, I can directly meet Grand Elder. The interior of the Moon God Temple was extremely large, as if it was a small world. Jianchen followed the sixth elder's guidance and quickly arrived at his destination. What appeared in front of him was a garden with a pleasant scenery. All kinds of heavenly and earthly treasures were planted, and they emitted a strong fragrance that made one feel relaxed and happy. With a glance, Jianchen discovered that the heavenly resources were not of very high quality. None of them had reached the god tier. To chaotic primes, these heavenly resources were more ornamental than practical. At the very center of the garden was a small courtyard. As expected, Jianchen sensed the presence of a first heavenly layer chaotic prime from there. "Sixth elder, why have you suddenly come to this king's place? Do you have something to report?" At the same time, an enchanting voice rang out from the small courtyard. It seemed to be able to incite the most primitive flames of desire. "This is Grand Elder Hong Maching." The relationship between Grand Elder Hong Maching and Palace Master Nan is a little unusual. She should be the most important person by Palace Master Nan's side. Sixth Elder's voice rang out. Jianchen immediately assumed the role of the sixth elder. He bowed politely and clasped his fist. "Great Elder, I have something important to report." "Oh, this king is very curious about something that even an elder of my Moon God Hall considers important. Tell me about it." Grand Elder Hong Maching's voice rang out from the courtyard. Jianchen lowered his head as a smear of confusion appeared in his eyes. He did not speak directly. Instead, he said secretly, "Great Elder, I've just received a secret message." The Hall Master might still be alive. With that, the pressure of a chaotic prime suddenly stopped. A middle-aged woman in a red dress suddenly appeared before Gentian. She had a graceful figure and was enchanting. Even though she was already past her middle years, it only made her seem more mature. She was extremely lethal. She was the great elder of the Moon God Hall, Hong Maching. Nan Patien is still alive? Is there any other news? Hong Maching stared at Gentian fixedly. Gentian nodded and said cautiously, "Please activate the formation here, Great Elder. I'm afraid that the secret message will leak." Hong Maching did not doubt him. She immediately waved her hands, and a powerful formation immediately appeared. The formation did not possess any offensive or defensive abilities, but it could block out everything. However, as soon as the formation formed, an extremely powerful sword intent suddenly appeared, causing Hong Maching's face to change drastically. Afterwards, she saw a tiny strand of sword chi the size of a finger hovering above the sixth elder's head with a single glance. "You!" Hong Maching's eyes rapidly narrowed. She could sense a fatal threat from the strand of sword chi. She instinctively wanted to ask about the sixth elder's identity, but as soon as she said that, the strand of sword chi above Gentian's head suddenly arrived. It shot into Hong Maching's forehead with indescribable speed. Gentian moved extremely quickly. Clearly, he wanted to deal with Hong Maching as quickly and cleanly as possible, so as to avoid a fight that would attract the attention of the other great elders of the Moon God Hall. Boom! Hong Maching only felt her head rumble. Afterwards, she basically lost consciousness. Her soul that was as powerful as a chaotic prime immediately dispersed by 80% from the attack of the sword chi. Hong Maching did not just feel pain from such a heavy injury. She fainted as well, or in other words, the intense pain caused her soul to become numb immediately. She lost all her senses. Hong Maching collapsed. Gentian's strand of profound sword chi failed to directly wipe out her soul, but it did disperse 80% of it. A strand of profound sword chi is almost enough to kill a first heavenly layer chaotic prime. It's even more powerful than I expected. Gentian was satisfied with the results of the attack. In the past, his profound sword chi was unable to do anything to the Dark Star Emperor in the Dark Star world because the bronze lamp protected his soul. However, this was the first time he had used profound sword chi against a chaotic prime after breaking through with the laws of the sword. In the past, my profound sword chi could only injure the souls of chaotic primes to a certain extent in the Gloomwater sect. Now, it can basically directly kill some weaker chaotic primes. Jianchen rejoiced inside, but he did not slow down at all. He extended his hand, and a streak of light immediately condensed. It directly pierced Hong Maching's soul. Under Jianchen's final attack, the remaining 80% of Hong Maching's soul was dispersed in a single instance. She was completely wiped out, with her strength as a first heavenly layer chaotic prime. She did not even have the chance to fight back before dying. Although I've wasted a strand of profound sword chi, I have no choice but to do this if I want to deal with a chaotic prime cleanly. Otherwise, once we start fighting, it'll cause a huge disturbance, thought Jianchen. He took away Hong Maching's space ring and found the medallion that the sixth elder had spoken about, just as he had expected. Chapter 3035. Inside the Moon Divine Hall, no one knew that Hong Maching, one of the 3 elders overseeing the Moon Divine Hall, had completely died. Everything in the Moon Divine Hall was as usual, as if nothing had happened. It was silently operating in its own way. As for Gentian, his disguise as the 6th elder was truly flawless in the Moon God Hall due to the secret cooperation of the 6th elder. No one discovered anything strange. He swaggered through the Moon God Hall as the 6th elder. He was unobstructed along the way, directly making his way to the very bottom of the Moon God Hall. Greetings to the 6th elder. Greetings to the 6th elder. Voices like that rang out from time to time in the Moon God Hall. Jianchen had no idea how many disciples of the moon god Hall he came across along the way. He even came across a few other elders who were also infinite primes. They actually took the initiative to strike up a conversation with Jianchen. If it were not for the sixth elder secretly cooperating with Jianchen's disguise might have been exposed. After all, this was the Saints' world and not the Dark Star world. The Saints' world was filled with schemes and schemes, so basically all the primordial realm experts who had grown up in the Saints' world had seen various schemes and schemes. They were not as easy to fool as the primordial realm experts of the Dark Star world. Sixth Elder, we still have matters to attend to, so we'll be bidding farewell first. When we have time next time, we have to have a few good drinks. In the end, Jianchen successfully extricated himself from the situation. The rest of the journey was smooth. Under the sixth elder's guidance, Jianchen ventured into the depths of the moon god hall and arrived before a stone wall in the end. We're here. It's here. There's a hidden door here that will only appear through the medallion. Behind the door is Moon Burial Cave. The sixth elder's voice rang out in Jianchen's head. Immediately, he seemed to think of something. The weak soul hidden in Jianchen could not help but tremble. He said in a voice filled with fear and worry, "Senior, I have obediently listened to all of your orders along the way. I hope you can keep your promise and spare my life on account of how difficult it was for me to reach this level of cultivation. Don't worry. Since I said I wouldn't kill you, I won't go back on my word." Jianchen said in an indifferent tone. His eyes were carefully sizing up the wall in front of him. With his current eyesight, he could naturally tell that the wall was a part of the moon god hall. The material was extremely tough, and unless one possessed the terrifying battle prowess to destroy a high-quality god artifact, it was impossible to break through the wall with brute force. Jianchan failed to see through the so-called door that led to Moon Burial Cave hidden in the wall at all. As Jianchen studied the wall, the sixth elder secretly let out a sigh of relief. Jianchen's promise of sparing his life had finally allowed him to find some comfort. He thought inside, this senior killed a chaotic prime in a single instance. In his eyes, a mere fifth heavenly layer infinite prime like me is naturally less than an ant. Why would he go back on his word to a nobody like me? It looks like I was worrying too much. Although I've betrayed the moon god hall this time, at the very least, I don't have to suffer the torment of being unable to live or die. I've even managed to keep my life. If worst comes to worst, the old man can just leave the moon god hall and join another peak organization on another plane. Looks like I really do need a secret token. With a flip of his hand, Jianchen took out the medallion he had obtained from Hongmaching. As soon as the token appeared, it resonated with the wall in front of him. The next moment, the smooth, jade-like wall suddenly split from the middle, and a door silently appeared. Jianchen did not enter immediately. Instead, he probed it with the senses of his soul first. Only after discovering that it really was a prison did he enter without any worries. There were many cells scattered across Moon Burial Cave, but all of them were empty. Only when Jianchen arrived at the end of the cave did he finally see a disheveled old man in tattered clothes. He sat in a dark corner by himself. "Senior, it's him. It's him. He's Yun Wufeng. He's been imprisoned here by the South Hall Master for several tens of thousand years." The sixth elder's voice became rather mixed when he mentioned Yun Wufeng. It was filled with melancholy. This was because the person before him was half a master to the previous moon god and the South Hall Master, yet he had been reduced to such a state today. Jianchen walked towards Yun Wufeng step by step like an ordinary person. He could clearly sense the heavy presence of a chaotic prime from Yun Wufeng, which was roughly equivalent to the sixth heavenly layer. However, the presence had declined rather severely. Very soon, Jianchen arrived before Great Elder Yun Wufeng. He did not hide himself at all, but Yun Wufeng did not seem to discover Jianchen's existence at all. He continued to sit there alone with his eyes closed. There was a crimson vine wrapped around his body. One end of the vine went deep into the ground, while the other end pierced through his shoulder blade, binding him there. "This is a hell's ghost vine." Jian Chen's eyes narrowed slightly when he saw the crimson vine. The underworld, ghost rot tan, was a special kind of plant. Not only was its vitality extremely strong, but it was also very difficult to kill. Most importantly, the underworld ghost rot tan contained an evil energy. Once someone was bound by the underworld ghost rot tan, they would be tortured by this evil energy at all times. Not only could the evil power harm a person's body, but it could also corrode the soul. It was specially used to torture people. Yun Wufeng was half a master to Nan Patian after all. Yet Nan Patian treated him like this. This immediately angered Jianchen. "Senior," Jianchen called out gently. However, he did not receive any response. Yun Wufeng continued to sit there without moving at all, as if he had entered a meditative state. He had lost all sense of the outside world. However, Jianchen knew that Yun Wufeng was extremely clear-headed, and he knew about his arrival like the back of his hand. The reason why he did not react at all was because his heart was basically dead. This was the result of having gone through heart-wrenching torture and not being able to walk out from the pain. At that moment, Jianchen felt deep sympathy for Yun Wufeng. Chapter 3036. Yun Wufeng finally reacted when he heard Fairy Haoyue. His eyes suddenly snapped open, and the light in his eyes dimmed. They were gloomy. It was as if there was nothing in this world that Yun Wufeng was reluctant to leave, and the only thing that was rooted in his heart was deep pain. "What did you say? You're Yu-Er's friend? Do you have any proof? And how is Yu-Er right now?" "Only when he mentioned you." Did Yun Wufeng's gloomy eyes light up slightly, and his voice became rather urgent. Jianchen naturally understood that the Yun Wufeng spoke of was Fairy Haoyue. "We don't know if Fairy Haoyue is still alive. It's rumored that she's already met with misfortune." "Senior, I still don't have any way to prove my identity right now, but that's no longer important." "Let me take you away from here first," said Jian Wushuang. He had killed a great elder of the Moon God Hall, so no one knew how long he could keep this a secret. As a result, he needed to leave as soon as possible, or the situation might change if he delayed any longer. "Has you also met with misfortune?" Yun Wufeng murmured as pain filled his eyes. When he saw Jianchen about to cut off the hell's ghost vine around him, he immediately stopped him. "Don't touch the hell's ghost vine. Once you touch it, all the chaotic primes in the Moon God Hall will immediately know. When Yu-Er tried to save me in the past, she touched the hell's ghost vine, which exposed her. God damn it. I actually failed to sense that they had already done something to the hell's ghost vine back then. Otherwise, it would have been me who harmed Yu-Er." Yun Wufeng's face was filled with sorrow as he felt regret. "Don't you need a secret token to enter this place? Only great elders who are chaotic primes have a secret token. So how did Fairy Haoyue get in here?" Jianchen was curious. "Senior, Fairy Haoyue's identity is special. She's the daughter of the previous moon god, so she's more familiar with the Moon God Hall than anyone else. Aside from a few particularly well-hidden forbidden grounds, there's nowhere in the Moon God Hall that Fairy Haoyue can't go." This time, the sixth elder's soul explained to Jianchen. Jianchen came to a realization. Afterwards, he said to Yun Wufeng, "Senior, please wait. I'll be right back." With that, Jianchen turned around and left. "What are you going to do?" Yun Wufeng sensed the flash of light in Jianchen's eyes with his sharp senses. He seemed to realize something, and he was immediately surprised. Jianchen paused and said, "If I want to save Senior, I obviously need to cut through the hell's ghost vine first. With the characteristics of the hell's ghost vine, it can't be cut through in a short amount of time. Moreover, they've done something to the hell's ghost vine, so the experts of the Moon God Hall will know once you touch it." A cold light flickered through Jianchen's eyes. He looked back at Yun Wufeng and said, Instead of letting the chaotic primes of the Moon God Hall make preparations to kill their way here, why don't we just kill them while they're unprepared? They're the pillars of the Moon God Hall, whatever. Yun Wufeng was rather reluctant, but he seemed to think of something soon afterwards. He let out a long sigh and said nothing more. After leaving the Moon Burial Cavern, Jianchen continued to disguise himself as the sixth elder and made his way to the core of the Moon God Hall. There are a total of 7 chaotic primes in the Moon God Hall. 1 is a late chaotic prime, 3 are mid-chaotic primes, and 3 are early chaotic primes. The strongest among them had left the Ice Pole province many years ago. Apart from Yun Wufeng, the other 2 were not in the Moon God Hall. As a result, the 3 chaotic primes in the Moon God Hall are all early chaotic primes. Apart from Hong Maching, who's the weakest, being a first heavenly layer chaotic prime, the other 2 are second heavenly layer chaotic primes. They should all possess an emergency communication method. Once something major happens, they'll be able to contact the chaotic primes outside. As a result, I have to kill the 2 of them, this time, just like how I killed Hong Maching. I have to use the profound sword chi when they're unprepared. Only then can I stop them from sending messages, without causing any commotion. Jianchen pondered silently as he made his way forward. It did not take long before he arrived at the place where one of the high elders was cultivating. The grand elders of the Moon God Hall were not gathered together. Each of them occupied a relatively large area as a place to cultivate. They were all very far away from each other and did not disturb each other. As a result, this made it easier for Jianchen to deal with them one by one. Sixth Elder, Master, is currently refining a cauldron of low-grade god pills. He has specially ordered that no one is to disturb him. When Jianchen arrived at the place where one of the great elders cultivated under the sixth elder's secret guidance, he was stopped by a middle-aged man who was a divine king. I have something extremely important to report to the great elder. It's extremely urgent and requires no delay, Jianchen said as the sixth elder, as if he was in a hurry. This. The middle-aged man who was guarding outside had a troubled look on his face. My disciple, bring the sixth elder in. At this moment, an old voice rang out from inside. The great elder had personally spoken. Sixth elder, please come with me. The middle-aged man immediately led Jianchen inside. In the end, they entered a secret room. This secret room was clearly a place for refining pills. Earth fire surged here, and the temperature of the entire secret room was extremely high. In the center of the secret room, there was a black-robed old man sitting cross-legged in front of a huge pill furnace, concentrating on refining a divine pill. Sixth Elder, what do you have to report? The great elder asked. He stared at the cauldron before him the entire time. All of his attention was focused on the cauldron before him. He had already lowered his wariness towards the outside world. Jianchen immediately gave up on the idea of using the profound sword chi when he saw this. In the next moment, the 9-star sword of heavenly ways silently appeared in his hand. It erupted with a surging streak of light that instantly slashed towards the great elder's head. All of this happened too suddenly. The great elder who was refining pills had placed all of his attention on the cauldron. He had never thought that the sixth elder before him would be an impostor, nor did he think that he would suffer such an assassination attempt in the headquarters of the Moon God Hall. The great elder's face changed drastically. He no longer cared about the cauldron before him. He lowered his head as quickly as he could and did everything he could to avoid the fatal strike that could directly obliterate the soul. However, Jianchen's strike was just too fast. Coupled with the assistance of the laws of space, the strike that was already as fast as lightning became even more thunderous. Coupled with the fact that one of them was charging up while the other was completely unguarded, the great elder was unable to avoid the fatal strike even after using all of his strength. Spurt! Illusionary stars appeared on the 9-star sword of heavenly ways, directly piercing the great elder's head. At that point, the great elder's fate was sealed. His soul had been obliterated by the powerful sword Qi. As for his disciple, Jianqin naturally could not let him leave alive. He followed in the great elder's footsteps very soon. There's one last person left. Jianqin's confidence swelled after saving a strand of profound sword Qi. He did not stay for even a moment longer, immediately hurrying off to the final location. Before long, the final great elder who remained behind was slain easily by Jianqin after using a strand of profound sword Qi. Even though he was a second heavenly layer chaotic prime, and his soul was even more powerful than Hongmaqing's, it had not changed at all. As a result, he had basically lost all ability to resist after being struck by the strand of profound sword Qi. Chapter 3037. After using 2 strands of profound sword Qi, I only have half of the power of my soul left. Jianqin rummaged through his space ring before taking out a few pills to recover the power of the soul and swallowing them. He then continued on his way to the Moon Burial Cave as the 6th Elder. None of the numerous disciples in the Moon God Hall knew that the 3 Grand Elders in charge of the Moon God Hall had already been silently killed by someone. In the depths of Moon Burial Cave, Yun Wufeng stared blankly at the ceiling as he recalled everything he had gone through in the past few years. He recalled the great changes that had befallen the Moon God Hall, as well as the torture and suffering he had endured while imprisoned here. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. At this moment, a wave of undisguised footsteps resounded. It was extremely ear-piercing in this deathly silent Moon Burial Cave. Yun Wufeng subconsciously raised his head and saw Jianqin striding over. Only then did some divine light return to his aged eyes. "Did you make a move?" Yun Wufeng spoke with a slightly hoarse voice. He felt bitter in his heart as he spoke. The 3 Grand Elders in charge of the Moon God Hall have all fallen. Now I can safely remove the bindings of the underworld Ghost Rot-Tan for Senior, Jianqin said indifferently. Yun Wufeng let out a long sigh. There was unconcealable grief on his face. After all, some of the great elders that had fallen were old friends that he had worked with for many years. Now that he knew that his old friend had passed away, Yun Wufeng felt an indescribable sadness in his heart. "Senior, think about the Netherworld's Ghost Rot-Tan on you, and think about what happened to Fairy Haoyue. Is it worth feeling grief for those people? In my opinion, they deserve to die. Let alone me, even if Fairy Haoyue was here. She would definitely not let these people go when she was strong enough," said Jianqin. He crouched down beside Yun Wufeng, preparing to destroy the underworld Ghost Rot-Tan. The Nether Ghost Rot-Tan belonged to the Nether Ghost Rot-Tan category. Due to its unique characteristics, it possessed an extremely strong toughness and defensive ability. If one were to use brute force to destroy it, it would be very difficult to cut it apart unless one possessed absolute strength to crush it. Since the underworld Ghost Rot-Tan could restrain Yun Wufeng, who was a mid-chaotic prime, it went without saying that it had reached a corresponding level. As a result, Jianqin was unable to sever it with brute force in a short amount of time. He could only restrain it. "Sai, that's true. These people, they all deserve it." Even though he said that, Yun Wufeng was still rather dispirited. He was in low spirits, and he did not have the excitement he should have when he was about to break free. Jianqin arrived behind Yun Wufeng and ignited his chaotic force with a secret technique. He began to incinerate the Hell Ghost Vine with chaotic flames. Fire was the bane of evil-type plants like the underworld Ghost Rot-Tan, let alone the fact that Jianqin possessed the chaotic flames. Although the chaotic flames were nowhere close to being true chaotic flames, and Jianqin's chaotic force had not reached its peak due to the level of his chaotic force, it was still far more powerful than regular flames. Immediately, the underworld Ghost Rot-Tan began to twist violently under the burning of the chaotic flames. Vaguely, it seemed to emit the cries of an infant. Clearly, the underworld Ghost Rot-Tan possessed some basic intelligence since it had reached such a level. The burning of the chaotic flames brought it great pain. However, even with that being the case, the vines around Yun Wufeng showed no signs of retreating. Instead, they tightened around him. At the same time, cold energy surged from the underworld Ghost Rot Tan in an attempt to fend off the chaotic flames. Yun Wufeng closed his eyes as his facial muscles twitched unnaturally. The underworld Ghost Rot Tan's full resistance caused him unprecedented pain, just as Genshin did his best to free Yun Wufeng from the underworld Ghost Rot Tan. A small, silver, droplet-shaped spaceship shot through the dark space as a resplendent streak of light in the vast outer space of the Ice Pole Plain. It directly entered the region of the Ice Pole Plain and made its way towards the Moon God Hall. Before long, the droplet of silver spaceship stopped firmly in front of the majestic entrance of the Moon God Hall. As the door of the spaceship opened, a skinny old man in silver robes emerged from within. Immediately, many disciples ran out from the Moon God Hall. There were even a few Infinite Prime elders among them. They all arrived before the old man who had just emerged from the spaceship politely and said politely, "Thank you for your help." Greetings to the great elder. Congratulations on your return. All right, you're all dismissed, the silver-robed old man said indifferently. He seemed rather cold. He was the leader of the 7 great elders of the Moon God Hall, Yu Wuguang. He was a 7th heavenly layer chaotic prime. In the Moon God Hall, Yu Wuguang was truly an existence that stood above everyone else. He possessed supreme authority. Yes, great elder. The disciples of the Moon God Hall all backed away. Yu Wuguang stowed the spaceship away and entered the Moon God Hall. However, he did not return to where he cultivated. Instead, he directly made his way to the residence of the great elder who was skilled in alchemy. "Old Lu, have you finished refining my pill?" Yu Wuguang called out from afar, but he received no reply. However, he did not mind. He directly entered Elder Lu's secret room. Flames surged in the secret room. Elder Lu continued to refine the pill, which was not damaged at all. However, Elder Lu was nowhere to be seen. There's the smell of blood. However, the moment he entered the secret chamber, Yu Wuguang furrowed his brows and his pupils shrunk. He found bloodstains that had dried up due to the high temperature in the corner of the secret chamber. Yu Wuguang's expression suddenly changed. Immediately, his divine senses spread out in all directions, completely covering Elder Lu's place of seclusion. After finding nothing, he quickly rushed to the other Grand Elder, Hong Maching's place of seclusion. Here, Yu Wuguang also found a ball of blood that had not dried up yet. With a glance, he determined that this blood belonged to Hong Maching. Oh no! Yu Wuguang immediately sensed that something was wrong after discovering traces of blood in the residences of 2 great elders. In the next moment, he arrived at the residence of the 3rd great elder as quickly as he could. In the end, the situation was obviously the same as the first 2. None of the 3 great elders who stayed behind in the Moon God Hall were seen. They all left behind traces of blood in their residences. Suddenly, the soil on the ground burst open, and a root of the hell ghost vine emerged from the ground. It swayed wildly in the air as it produced a baby-like cry. The face of the first great elder of the Moon God Hall, Yu Wuguang, immediately became extremely sunken when he saw the hell ghost vine. Killing intent surged. Something has actually happened to Moon Burial Cave. Who is so bold? Yu Wuguang bellowed out, and the tremendous presence of a late chaotic prime suddenly erupted. He seemed to have turned into a huge storm of energy, rushing towards Moon Burial Cave with surging energy. P.S. In the chapter where Jianqin first met He Qianshan, Xiaoyao made a mistake and mixed up the names Yang Yutian and Changyang. Chapter 3038. An enemy has infiltrated the Moon God Hall. All disciples of the Moon God Hall, be on guard. All elders, head to the Moon Burial Cave immediately. Yu Wuguang's furious voice rang throughout the entire Moon God Hall as he charged towards the Moon Burial Cave. What? An enemy has infiltrated? Why didn't I sense anything? That's the Great Elder's voice. Since the Great Elder has personally said that there's an enemy, it must be true. Quick, gather all disciples. Begin guarding the formation and close the entrance of the Moon God Hall. With Yu Wuguang's order, the peaceful Moon God Hall immediately became bustling with people. Presences erupted from various regions of the Moon God Hall. Their cultivations ranged from godhood to infinite primes. Many cultivators who were in seclusion or cultivating in the Moon God Hall chose to emerge at that moment and follow Yu Wuguang's orders. Some disciples even used secret techniques to close the entrance of the Moon God Hall. Hold on, don't close the entrance yet. Let's see the strength of the enemy who has infiltrated our Moon God Hall first. If they're so powerful that we can't deal with them, wouldn't we be digging our own graves by closing the entrance? When the door of the Moon God Hall was about to close, an infinite prime elder flew over and said sternly, Yu Wuguang arrived at the entrance of Moon Burial Cave. He took out a medallion and opened the entrance before charging in quickly. Behind him were over a dozen elders who were infinite primes. At the same time, Genshin's chaotic flames incinerated the Hell's Ghost Vine in the depths of Moon Burial Cave. The Hell's Ghost Vine wrapped around Yin Wufeng became weaker and weaker as it was burned away by Genshin's chaotic flames. It was about to snap completely. At this moment, Yun Wufeng seemed to sense something. His eyes snapped open and he was stern. He said sternly, Oh no, we've been discovered. A large number of experts of the Moon God Hall are hurrying over. Hold on, T. This is Yu Wuguang's presence. He's actually returned. The first Grand Elder of the Moon God Hall, Yu Wuguang? Genshin's voice came from behind as his brows furrowed together. That's right. It's him. He's a 7th heavenly layer chaotic prime. He's completely loyal to Nan Patian and has submitted to the Flame Reverend. I never thought he'd return at a time like this. We're in trouble now, Yun Wufeng said with an ugly expression. Senior, how much strength do you still have? Genshin asked calmly. In his peak condition, the old man was a 6th heavenly layer chaotic prime. But after being tortured by the Hell Ghost Rot Tan for all these years, his strength has declined. He's only equivalent to a 5th heavenly layer chaotic prime now, said Yun Wufeng. However, he soon let out a long sigh and said, However, old man was no match for Yu Wuguang, even at his peak, let alone now. Sir, old man is eternally grateful for your assistance. Later, old man will do his best to keep Yu Wuguang busy. So do your best to escape. Yun Wufeng had already roughly estimated Genshin's strength from the chaotic flames that Genshin had used. Let alone Yu Wuguang, Genshin could not even defeat him. As a result, Yun Wufeng gave up on the thought of escaping. Senior, you don't have to be discouraged. So what if Yu Wuguang is a 7th heavenly layer chaotic prime? As long as Senior works with me, and we work together, we can heavily injure him, even if we can't kill him, said Yun Wufeng. At the same time, he increased the intensity of the chaotic flames. In the end, with a painful wail, the nether ghost vine around Yun Wufeng was completely burnt away. Yun Wufeng had finally regained his freedom after being bound for so many years. Senior, it'll all be up to you whether we can heavily injure Yu Wuguang later. Consume this pill first and recover your vitality. Genshin passed a pill to Yun Wufeng. He had obtained this pill from the Wind Venerable. It was specially used for healing. It was a supreme pill for healing. Chen only had a total of 3 of these pills on him. T- this is a high-grade god pill, a life-stealing pill. Even Grand Primes treat these pills as treasures. Every single one of them is priceless. This is just far too valuable. Yun Wufeng was immediately moved when he saw the pill. After all, this was something from the Wind Venerable. How could it be ordinary? Senior, danger has descended. Surviving this crisis is of utmost importance, so please consume it quickly, Genshin said sternly. All right then. Yun Wufeng hesitated for a moment. but in the end he gritted his teeth and swallowed the divine pill. Immediately his injuries healed at an unbelievable rate. Just who is bold enough to infiltrate our moon god hall and kidnap people? At this moment, a cold snort rang out. The silver-robed Yu Wuguang appeared before Yun Wufeng and Jianqin with over a dozen infinite prime elders. Yu Wuguang glanced past Yun Wufeng indifferently before looking at Jianqin. He said coldly, "You're not the sixth elder at all. Speak, who are you?" With that, a tremendous presence radiated from Yu Wuguang, crushing down on Jianqin in an overwhelming manner. Yun Wufeng did not know Jianqin's exact battle prowess. He could only vaguely sense that Jianqin's strength was not as great as he had imagined it to be. As a result, Yun Wufeng took the initiative to block Jianqin when he faced Yu Wuguang's presence. He endured the presence and faced off against Yu Wuguang from afar. However, Yun Wufeng lost the upper hand due to the difference in cultivation. As for Jianqin, he explained a few things to Yun Wufeng, secretly. In the end, he said, "Senior, do you remember what I said?" Yun Wufeng nodded slightly. He glanced at the elders behind Yu Wuguang and said, "Many of you have fought with the moon goddess in the past. I never thought that you would be clashing with Old Man now. Old Man really doesn't want to become enemies with you. Are there any of you who are willing to back out? Why should we back out? Only by following the flame, Reverend, can our moon god hall become a supreme organization that no one dares to provoke on the ice pole plane. Only under the illumination of the flame, Reverend, can our moon god hall reach unimaginable glory. Great Elder, why are you so stubborn? Great Elder, you're too inflexible and inflexible. Why don't you join us? I believe that under the flame, Reverend's lead, our moon god hall will become more and more powerful." A few infinite prime elders all spoke up. As soon as the flame Reverend was mentioned, all of their eyes burned with desire. They were filled with longing and yearning for the future they imagined. Chapter 3039. Even though Great Elder Yun Wufeng had already expected this outcome, he was still disappointed when the truth was placed before him. He was still greatly disappointed. "Sigh, since you've all made up your minds to betray the moon god hall, Old Man will have nothing to do with you in the future. He will be dealt with as a traitor. Today, Old Man will be cleaning up the moon god hall." Yun Wufeng's gaze became cold. Yu Wuguang could not help but laugh aloud when he heard that. His presence leaked out, and his silver robes fluttered despite the lack of wind. He looked at Yun Wufeng scornfully and said, "Yun Wufeng, you've probably lost your mind after being locked up here for so many years. Or perhaps you've become delirious from the torture of the underworld ghost vine. You can't differentiate reality anymore. Otherwise, why would you say something so absurd? Why don't you take a look at your current situation? Do you really think that you can still do whatever you want in the moon god hall with your current strength and status as a prisoner? Cleaning up the moon god hall? What a joke! What a joke! The Great Elder is right. Yun Wufeng, don't forget that you're no longer the Great Elder of our moon god hall. You're just a prisoner now. Yun Wufeng, you can't even protect yourself, yet you want to clean up the moon god hall? What are you going to use to clean up the moon god hall? Do you have the ability to do that if it weren't for the fact that the leader of the moon god hall still cared about you? Yun Wufeng, how could you still be alive right now?" As soon as Yu Wuguang finished speaking, the infinite prime elders behind him laughed aloud. Some of them even mocked him. They were all extremely cold, showing no mercy at all. Yun Wufeng remained silent, but his face was as ugly as it could be. His chest heaved heavily. He was quite furious. In the next moment, he suddenly bellowed out, and his presence erupted like a tsunami. He suddenly stabbed towards Yu Wuguang with a medium quality god artifact sword. "You overestimate yourself." Yu Wuguang sneered disdainfully. He immediately struck out, engaging in an intense battle with Yun Wufeng. He had already looked down on Yun Wufeng when he was at his peak, let alone now that his strength had been reduced. As a result, Yun Wufeng was at a disadvantage as soon as the two of them clashed. You actually barely possess the strength of a sixth heavenly layer. It looks like you must have consumed some sort of precious divine pill to recover so quickly. However, this still doesn't change anything. The difference between us is the difference between a mid-chaotic prime and a late-chaotic prime. Yu Wugong cried out in surprise. He wielded a battle spear, and immediately, boundless moonlight poured down, sweeping up a torrential energy that clashed with Yun Wufeng's sword. Boom! When chaotic primes clashed, the terrifying shockwaves from their battle were basically devastating. With a great boom, Yun Wufeng was blown away. His face paled. The gap between him and Yu Wugong was not small. Moreover, this gap was not only due to the difference in their cultivation levels, but also due to the difference in their god artifacts. Although they were both mediocre-grade divine artifacts, the divine sword in Yun Wufeng's hand was only at the initial stage of mediocre grade. On the other hand, Yu Wugong's spear had basically reached the peak of mediocre-grade divine artifacts. At the same time, Jianqin stood with the elders of the Moon God Hall. They had distanced themselves from Yu Wugong and Yun Wufeng's battle to avoid being affected by the shockwaves. Instead, they fought in another region of the Moon Burial Cavern. Powerful pulses of energy surged through the cavern, striking the walls in the distance and producing great booms. Fortunately, this was a high-quality god artifact. It was extremely tough, so it was impossible to damage it without the strength of a Grand Prime. It easily endured the shockwaves from their battle. Spurt! Suddenly, blood fell from the sky like it was raining blood. An infinite prime elder of the Moon God Hall had been cleaved in half by Jianqin's sword as soon as they clashed. His soul was immediately wiped out. Even though over a dozen elders surrounded Jianqin, Jianqin was no weaker than a chaotic prime. He was like a wolf in a flock of sheep, slaughtering everyone around him. No one could pose a threat to him. Oh no, he's a chaotic prime. Great Elder, we're not his opponent. An infinite prime called for help. However, as soon as he said that, a streak of light shot over. It moved extremely quickly, piercing his head before he could even react. These infinite prime elders were just too weak to Jianqin right now. They could not even withstand a single blow. Keep him busy. Old Man has already sent a message to Old Luo and Old Lin. They'll be back soon, Yu Wugong called out sternly. The remaining elders all riled up when they heard that. The Old Luo and Old Lin that Yu Wugong mentioned were the other two great elders of the Moon God Hall, Luo Fei and Lin Zhongjing. They were both mid-chaotic primes. Swish! Swish! At this moment, Jianqin's hand flashed with light, and he killed another two infinite primes effortlessly. In just a few seconds, several primordial realm elders had died. Jianqin's strength immediately made the remaining elders shiver in fear. God damn it! Yu Wugong cursed when he saw that. He knew that if he did not go and provide assistance, the remaining elders would probably be doomed as well. They would not be able to last until Luo Fei and Lin Zhongjing returned. In the next moment, Yu Wugong bellowed out and knocked back Yun Wufeng with a full-powered strike. Afterwards, he charged towards Jianqin murderously. However, at that moment, a powerful might of the world suddenly permeated the air. Yun Wufeng forcibly stabilized himself. Blood, qi permeated his body as he burned his essence blood to unleash a god-tier battle skill. The might of the world instantly locked onto Yu Wugong. Yu Wugong's charge towards Jianqin came to a halt. He became stern for the first time. The god-tier battle skill was enough to threaten him. God-tier battle skill Moonfall. On the other side, many elders cried out. This was because a huge, round moon had silently condensed above Yun Wufeng's head. Moonfall. Old Man knows it too. Let's see if your Moonfall is more powerful or if Old Man's Moonfall is more profound. Yu Wugong snorted coldly. Moonlight shone from him as he began to use a god-tier battle skill as well. However, at this moment, Jianqin who was fighting a group of elders nearby, suddenly looked at Yu Wugong and he sneered. At the same time, Yu Wugong immediately used his God-tier battle skill as well. However, as soon as his God-tier battle skill appeared, something that left him utterly dumbfounded occurred. In the next moment, Yu Wugong's God-tier battle skill lost all the pressure of the world. Like a deflated balloon, the technique that should have been earth-shattering was reduced to a ball of ordinary energy in the blink of an eye. WWW, what is going on? Yu Wugong's eyes widened as disbelief filled his face. He seemed to have seen a ghost. It was also at this moment that a surging sword intent appeared. 2 strands of profound sword chi appeared above Genshin's head at the same time. They shot out one after another as white streaks of light. Arg! Yu Wugong shrieked out miserably. The 2 strands of profound sword chi struck his soul at the same time, heavily injuring it. Yun Wufeng's God-tier battle skill landed at the same time. A huge, round moon radiated with the pressure of a God-tier battle skill. It struck Yu Wugong heavily with surging energy. Boom! With a loud bang, the entire moon god hall seemed to tremble. Yu Wugong was sent flying like a kite with its string cut. He vomited mouthfuls of blood as his face instantly became extremely pale. After shooting out the 2 strands of profound sword chi, Genshin seemed to have lost all his strength. His body swayed, and he almost fell to the ground. He had 4 strands of profound sword chi in total. Every time he used a strand of profound sword chi, it would consume a quarter of the power of his soul. If he used all 4 strands of profound sword chi at the same time, the power of his soul would be completely depleted. When he killed the 3 great elders of the Moon God Hall before, he had used 2 strands of profound sword chi. Although he recovered some of the power of his soul through consuming a God-tier pill, it was nowhere near enough in such a short amount of time. Now that he had used the last 2 strands of profound sword chi to attack Yu Wugong, he had used up all 4 strands of profound sword chi. The power of his soul was empty as well. At this moment, he was like an ordinary person who had not slept for a few days and nights. Although there was surging power in his body, his head was groggy, and he looked like he would faint at any time. He almost had no strength to fight. P.S. Xiao Yao made a mistake earlier. In the chapter where he snuck into the Moon God Hall, he wrote the name of the first great elder of the Moon God Hall incorrectly. He wrote Gu Wan Shan before, but that has been corrected. The correct name is Yu Wugong. There are just far too many characters in a single book. Chapter 3040. Bang, bang, bang. When the power of Genshin's soul ran out, the attacks of the Infinite Prime Elders landed on Genshin one after another. With a few heavy thuds, Genshin did not put up any defenses at all, forcefully enduring the attacks of the Infinite Primes. The powerful energy made his body stagger as he staggered backwards uncontrollably. The elders who surrounded him immediately rejoiced when they saw this. Even chaotic primes would not dare to directly take on their attacks without any defenses. However, Genshin did not put up any defenses at all. He had just endured their attacks with his body. Naturally, the elders believed that the 6th elder would be severely injured even if he did not die. But in the next moment, they all became astounded. To their surprise, they discovered that Genshin was completely unscathed after taking on their powerful attacks with his body. He was not even scratched. This is impossible. Old Man's full-powered strike failed to injure him at all. How is this possible? Heavens, how is his body so tough? Even as a 5th heavenly layer infinite prime with a god artifact, I can't injure him. At that moment, the expressions of all the infinite prime elders of the Moon God Hall changed drastically. They all looked at Genshin in fear. In their eyes, even though chaotic primes were terrifying, they were nowhere near enough to make them feel fear and despair. This was because if chaotic primes were heavily injured or ran out of energy, there was still a chance for them to be surrounded and killed. However, now that they faced Genshin's powerful body, They truly felt despair and fear. This was because they could clearly tell that Jianqin did not put up any defenses, nor did he put up any resistance. He had truly taken on their attacks with his body alone. However, in the end, they failed to injure him at all. What did this mean? It meant that even if Jianqin stood there without moving, they would not be able to harm him at all, no matter how they attacked him. At that moment, the infinite prime elders of the Moon God Hall felt a deep sense of defeat. However, Jianqin no longer cared about them. He tottered, and he could no longer stand straight. The power of his soul had been completely drained. Apart from a splitting headache, even the world around him began to spin. Right now, he could faint at any time. However, at this moment, Yun Wufeng suddenly appeared before Jianqin. He grabbed Jianqin with one hand and completely ignored the elders and the surroundings. With a flash, he vanished with Jianqin, leaving the moon burial cave in a single instance. Chase! Chase! Don't let them get away. Don't let them get away, this old man. This old man will tear them to pieces with my own hands. On the other side, Yu Wuguang, who was covered in blood and battered, stood up shakily. His eyes were bloodshot, and he roared like a wild beast. Jianqin's 2 strands of profound sword qi had heavily injured his soul. Right now, Yu Wuguang basically had to endure the tearing pain from his soul at all times. This drove him mad, and his fury surged. Yun Wufeng moved through the Moon God Hall as a white blur with Jianqin. As one of the great elders in the past, he was naturally extremely familiar with the layout and routes of the Moon God Hall. As a result, he arrived at the entrance of the Moon God Hall with great ease. The various formations and restrictions they came across along the way were all removed by Yun Wufeng with a wave of his hand. In the end, Yun Wufeng successfully escaped from the Moon God Hall. Afterwards, he shot into the sky and used his speed, vanishing into the horizon in a single instance. Soon after Yun Wufeng left, 2 figures approached from afar. They arrived before the Moon God Hall quickly and entered the entrance as 2 blurs, vanishing from the Moon God Hall. The 2 of them were the last 2 great elders of the Moon God Hall, Luo Fei and Lin Zhongjing. They were both 5th heavenly layer chaotic primes. Before long, the 3 remaining great elders of the Moon God Hall gathered together. Yu Wuguang had already changed into a set of clean, silver robes. He was no longer in a horrible shape, but his wounds did not improve at all. They were still as severe as before. In particular, the wounds to his soul caused him tremendous pain at all times. It was as if his soul was about to be ripped apart. This feeling was a painful torture for any expert. Someone pretended to be the 6th elder and saved Yun Wufeng. The old man's soul was heavily injured by the person who pretended to be the 6th elder. Yu Wuguang ground his teeth as soon as he mentioned Jianqin, who pretended to be the 6th elder. Unforgettable hatred filled his heart. It was impossible for him to lose against Yun Wufeng, let alone be injured. The culprit behind all of this was the person who pretended to be the 6th elder. Whether it's Yun Wufeng or the person who pretended to be the 6th elder, our Moon God Hall will never let either of them go. Yu Wuguang gritted his teeth. Yu Wuguang said through clenched teeth. As he spoke, he kept coughing and spitting out blood. Yun Wufeng has been tortured by the underworld ghost vine for so long, so the presence of the underworld ghost vine has already lingered in his body. He won't be able to purge it in a short amount of time. It won't be difficult for us to find Yun Wufeng with the underworld ghost vine, said Luo Fei. When he first saw how injured Yu Wuguang was, he also paled in fright. This was because Yu Wuguang was not someone the current Moon God Hall could fend off for being able to injure him with his strength as a 7th heavenly layer chaotic prime. However, Luo Fei immediately stopped worrying when he learnt why Yu Wuguang was injured. Fortunately, it was not an expert at the 7th heavenly layer or above. Elder Yu, the most urgent matter at hand is for you to recuperate from your injuries first. Once your injuries are healed, we will immediately go capture Yun Wufeng and bring him back. As for the person who impersonated the 6th elder, A cruel smile appeared on Lin Zhongjing's face as he continued. This person cannot be killed so easily. Killing him would be letting him off too easily. We will use the cruelest methods to torture him. He's killed so many elders of our moon god hall. We need to make him suffer the most painful torture in the world. Chapter 3041. Yun Wufeng had already left the moon god hall with Jianqin. With his cultivation as a chaotic prime, it would not take him long to traverse the entire ice pole plain. As a result, he arrived in another region of the ice pole plain with Jianqin very soon. This region was under the control of the greatest organization on the ice pole plain, the Snow Sect. However, Yun Wufeng did not venture deep into the territory of the Snow Empire. Instead, he found an extremely harsh glacier near the border of the Snow Empire and hid there carefully. At this moment, Jianqin sat on a thick layer of ice in a frigid cavern. The terrifying coldness in the surroundings had already condensed into a thin layer of ice on his body. Even his black hair had been dyed snow white. At this moment, he really looked like a human-shaped ice sculpture. Yun Wufeng was right beside Jianqin. He also sat on the ground and silently recovered. He had ingested a high-grade god pill before, but he had fallen into a battle with Yu Wuguang before he could even refine its effects. Now that he was hiding in the cold cavern, he finally had the time to use the pill's effects to silently recover. 3 days later, Yun Wufeng finished healing. His body shook slightly, and the ice crystals that had condensed on him immediately shattered. A sliver of joy appeared on his face as he murmured to himself, as expected of a high-grade god pill. My injuries that would have taken me at least several thousand years to recover have been completely healed in just 3 days. Moreover, the effects of the god pill haven't even run out yet. It's such a waste to use such a precious high-grade god pill on old man. Senior Yin, have you recovered? At this moment, Jianqin opened his eyes and looked at Yun Wufeng. I've completely recovered. Old man has returned to his peak condition. Yun Wufeng chuckled. However, he noticed Jianqin's pale face very soon, and his smile vanished. He crouched down and asked in concern, Young man, how are you right now? Jianqin shook his head. I'm fine. It's just that the power of my soul has been completely drained, so I need some time to recover. The power of the primordial spirit is very slow to recover. Yun Wufeng had a troubled expression on his face. He knew very well that the two of them were not completely out of danger yet. I have a way to recover my soul quickly, but I still need some time. With that, Jianqin closed his eyes again and focused on recovering the power of his soul. Just like that, another 3 days passed, and Jianqin finally recovered a sliver of the power of his soul. He could use his soul now. He immediately took out a token from his interspatial ring, and the sliver of power of his nascent spirit that he had just recovered immediately entered it. This is the medallion of the Tianhe clan. Yun Wufeng's eyes immediately narrowed when he saw the medallion as he paid close attention to Jianqin. In his eyes, the Tianhe clan was a colossus. They were terrifyingly powerful, ranking within the top 3 of the entire ice pole plain. It was not something that the Moon God Hall could compare to. Even though their hall master, Nanpatian, had become a Grand Prime, one of the peak experts of the ice pole plain, he was still nothing before the Tianhe clan. You're a part of the Tianhe clan? Yun Wufeng looked at Jianqin in surprise and doubt. Jianqin shook his head and did not explain too much. However, his facial features changed. When he looked at him again, he had changed from the 6th elder to Yang Yutian. Yun Wufeng stared fixedly at the unfamiliar face. Only quite a while later did he sigh gently. What a great transformation technique. It's actually flawless. This technique really has the ability to fool everyone. Even old man, a mighty 6th heavenly layer chaotic prime, failed to see through it. Probably only Grand Primes can see through it. My friend, I'm confident that no one below Grand Prime can see through your wondrous transformation technique. The Grand Prime's face was filled with shock. At this moment, a heavy presence permeated the surroundings without any disguise. It approached Jianshin's cavern of ice. It's a chaotic prime. Yun Wufeng immediately became cautious. Senior Yin, there's no need to worry. I'm on your side, said Jianshin. However, the approaching chaotic prime moved extremely quickly as well. As soon as Jianshin finished speaking, he had already appeared in the cavern of ice. He was the great elder of the Tianhe clan, He Qianqi. As soon as He Qianqi arrived in the cavern of ice, his gaze locked onto Yun Wufeng. He immediately frowned and asked, "You're a part of the Moon God Hall?" "I'm Yun Wufeng. I was indeed a great elder of the Moon God Hall in the past, but even I don't know whether I'm still a part of the Moon God Hall now," Yun Wufeng said to He Qianqi. Yun Wufeng said to He Qianqi. He could already tell that He Qianqi was a member of the Tianhe clan from his clothes. A primordial chaos expert was a figure like a grand elder in the Tianhe clan. Although they were both grand elders, the status of a grand elder of the Tianhe clan was much higher than that of a grand elder of the Moon God Hall. As a result, Yun Wufeng behaved extremely politely. He Qianqi's expression changed slightly, but he ignored Yun Wufeng. Compared to Yun Wufeng's enthusiasm, He Qianqi was much colder. He Qianqi arrived before Jianshin. With a flip of his hand, a thick barrier of energy enveloped him and Jianshin, isolating them from the outside world. He Qianqi stared at Jianshin with mixed feelings. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but he stopped himself. "Senior, if you have something to say, just say it." Jianshin looked at He Qianqi calmly. He Qianqi sighed heavily. "Fellow Yang Yutian, although I know that you probably have some sort of relationship with the Moon God Hall, you shouldn't have interfered with the internal strife of the Moon God Hall so quickly. You also know that Nan Patian of the Moon God Hall is the Flame Reverend's subordinate. Although it's rumored that Nan Patian is dead, the Flame Reverend is still alive. The Flame Reverend is basically the greatest backer of the Moon God Hall right now. The Flame Reverend is not like other peak experts. Most of the other peak experts at the same level would be arrogant and refuse to lower themselves to deal with you. However, the Flame Reverend is different. The Flame Reverend is a vengeful person. You've interfered with the internal affairs of the Moon God Hall so rashly and ruined his plans. Once the Flame Reverend appears in the future, he will never spare you. Fellow Yang Yutian, do you know about the Huffing clan? The Huffing clan ranks fourth on the Ice Pole Plane. Although that's the case, their strength is on par with our Tianhe clan. Their clan possesses endless wealth, enough to make countless people jealous. However, the Huffing clan is still able to exist on the Ice Pole Plane even after all their Grand Primes have died. They haven't even been removed from the rankings. Do you know why that is? It's all because of the Flame Reverend. The Flame Reverend is a supreme expert that all the peak organizations on the Ice Pole Plane fear. As long as the Flame Reverend is still alive, no organization on the Ice Pole Plane that is related to the Flame Reverend will be able to touch them. It's the same for the Huffing clan. It's the same for the Moon God Hall. Chapter 3042. Jianshin knew that all the peak organizations on the Ice Pole Plane feared the Flame Reverend very much, not daring to provoke him at all. However, after hearing He Qianqi's words, he discovered that he had still underestimated the reputation the Flame Reverend had left behind on the Ice Pole Plane. From He Qianqi's words, Jianshin could tell that the Tianhe clan did not just fear the Flame Reverend. Instead, it was fear, a deep fear. They were so afraid that even the weaklings under the Flame Reverend did not dare to provoke them. Moreover, this was under the circumstances where the Flame Reverend had vanished for a very long time. However, although the Flame Reverend was very powerful, Jianshin was fearless. He was magnanimous and fearless. He said with composure, "Thank you for your warning, Senior. However, there are some things that I must do. Even if I have to offend the Flame Reverend after doing them, I will not hesitate to do them. If I don't do this, I might regret it for the rest of my life one day. Sigh. Looks like you still don't understand the Flame Reverend's viciousness. The Flame Reverend has made a name for himself in the saints' world many years ago. What truly terrifies people about him is not his cultivation as a ninth heavenly layer Grand Prime, but his viciousness. Naturally, there are plenty of people who have offended the Flame Reverend throughout the history of the saints' world. However, all those who have offended the Flame Reverend, or even done something that displeased the Flame Reverend, have died. Their deaths are insignificant, but the Flame Reverend will destroy the sects and organizations behind them as well. He Qianqi revealed an extremely rare sliver of surprise on his stern face. He continued with an extremely heavy voice, "Let's use me as an example. If I interfere with the matters of the Moon God Hall, it'll be fine if I go along with the Flame Reverend. But if I go against the Flame Reverend, he'll directly blame the Tianhe clan for this when he returns. The consequences," He Qianqi wanted to say something, but he stopped himself. In short, he truly feared the Flame Reverend. Even if you offend other peak experts in the saints' world who have reached such a level of cultivation, they will rarely kill you directly. At most, they'll just teach you a lesson. As for the Flame Sovereign, he killed them all and annihilated the entire clan. He Qianqi enunciated the last part of the sentence, annihilate the entire clan, emphasizing every single word. Even though He Qianqi had described the Flame Sovereign to be extremely terrifying, it did not frighten Genshin at all. Instead, he chuckled. "Senior, since the Flame Sovereign has vanished for so many years, he obviously won't reappear anytime soon. Moreover, even if the Flame Sovereign does appear, the First Majesty of the Heavenly Palace of Bishing will probably go to him first." There was one more thing that Genshin did not mention. It was that there was someone behind him who could go against the Flame Sovereign. Feng Zun was currently his greatest backer. Moreover, the Wind Venerable was no longer the ninth heavenly layer Grand Prime of the past. Instead, he had become a sovereign, an existence akin to the laws of the world. He was truly supreme. The only flaw was that the Wind Venerable had used a special method to become a sovereign of heaven and earth, so he had yet to grasp the power that belonged to sovereigns of heaven and earth. He Qianqi felt exhausted when he saw how Genshin remained fearless, like a newborn calf. He said nothing more and said, "Here are the pills you want to recover the power of the soul. I've brought them for you. However, these pills are difficult to refine. The materials are just far too rare, and the clan doesn't have much left either. You have to use them sparingly." He Qianqi passed a jade bottle to Genshin before saying sternly, "There's one last thing you need to understand. Although you've given us 3 kilograms of soil of god blood, which is a great favor to our Tianhe clan will never stand up for you for provoking the Flame Sovereign. As a matter of fact, we won't even dare to help you openly. Don't worry, Senior. I naturally understand this, and I definitely won't implicate the Tianhe clan." Genshin accepted the jade bottle and clasped his fist at He Qianqi. However, at this moment, the laws of order in the surroundings suddenly pulsed violently. The range of the ripples was so great that not only did it cover the entire sky of the ice pole plain in a single instance, but even extended to the depths of outer space. It was as if it was not just the ice pole plain. Even the endless space of the Saints' world, which encompassed the 49 great plains and 81 great planets, pulsed violently with the laws of the world. It seemed like an indescribably terrifying force had directly shaken up the 3,000 laws of the world, shaking up the order and laws of the world. Ha! Ha ha ha! At the same time, a soul-stirring laughter rang out from the endless space. The voice seemed to possess the supreme power of laws. It was not transmitted through sound waves. Instead, it spread through the omnipresent power of laws in the world, reaching the entire Saints' world in a single instance. At that moment, whether it was the 49 great plains, the 81 great planets, or the secret places beyond them, such as the Thor clan that resided in the depths of the Annihilation Lightning Domain, The voice reverberated through all of them. Apart from the divine halls left behind by grand exalts in the past and grand exalt-level formations, there was nothing that could stop the voice from invading. Immediately, this laughter spread throughout the entire world. Many of the pinnacle experts of the ancient and powerful forces were startled awake. In the depths of the Thunder God clan in the Annihilation Lightning region, the elders on the left and right, who were seated cross-legged like stone sculptures, opened their eyes one after another. Lei Shiguang, who was in seclusion, also came out with a shocked expression. The three of them appeared outside the Annihilation Lightning region in a flash, revealing shocked and envious expressions. There was even some jealousy mixed within. It was not just the Thor clan. The other Archean clans in the Saints' world were the same. On the Ice Pole province, the three ancestors of the Tianhe clan also silently appeared in outer space outside the Ice Pole province. They stared at a certain direction in the depths of space in shock. It was not just the three of them. Even the ancestors of the greatest organization on the Ice Pole plane, the Snow Sect, emerged from seclusion as well. They all appeared in outer space. In a single instance, several dozen figures appeared in outer space. The ancestors of all the peak organizations had emerged from seclusion. From today onwards, all living beings bear witness that I, Luo Tian, have become an exalt. The great voice rang out once again, through order and laws. It rang through every inch of space in the Saints' world. Along with it was an irresistible, supreme pressure. All the space beasts in outer space trembled as they prostrated themselves on the ground. Grand exalt! Grand exalt! This is the might of a grand exalt! A new grand exalt has been born in our Saints' world. Whether it was he Qianqi or Yun Wufeng, they both trembled slightly in the frigid cavern on the Ice Pole plain. They were filled with indescribable emotions. Luo Tian! Luo Tian! That's the Luo Tian, Saint Lord of the Luo Tian plain. I never thought he would take the final step and become the sovereign of the world. He Qianqi's voice trembled slightly. He knew just too well what becoming a grand exalt signified. Chen blinked his eyes as he was shocked inside. At that moment, he discovered that his control over the laws of the sword had become rather weak. It was greatly disrupted and obstructed. Is this the feeling of a grand exalt shaking up the laws of the world? He had seen more than one grand exalt in the past. He had even come into close contact with them. However, today was the first time he had witnessed the boundless might of a grand exalt shaking up the laws of the world. Chapter 3043. Jianqin emerged from the cavern of ice. He stood on the snow-white plains where the streams of coldness wreaked havoc. He raised his head and looked at the stars. He could clearly see the many figures hovering in the space outside the Ice Pole plain. Every single one of them was extremely powerful. He Qianqi and Yun Wufeng emerged from the cavern of ice as well. They stood beside Jianqin. Breaking through alone has caused such a great disturbance. He really is worthy of being a sovereign of a world. Yun Wufeng sighed emotionally. He Qianqi said emotionally as well. The sacred Lord of all heaven is a renowned existence in the Saints' world. He has already remained at the 9th heavenly layer for over 10 million years. He is one of the supreme experts who has remained at the 9th heavenly layer for the longest time. The All-Heaven Plane was not originally called the All-Heaven Plane. Instead, it was renamed after the sacred Lord of all heaven shook up the Saints' world. But today, the sacred Lord of all heaven has taken a step ahead of everyone at the same level, becoming a sovereign. From today onwards, we should refer to him as the Grand Exalt of all heaven. As he said that, he Qianqi bowed deeply in the direction of the all-heaven plane out of respect. Another sovereign organization has been born. The many grand primes who hovered in outer space all conversed with one another through the senses of their souls. Although the all-heaven clans in the past had the sacred Lord of all heaven, they were still inferior to the Archean clans. Now, the sacred Lord of all heaven has directly become a sovereign of the world, allowing the all heaven clans to stand above the Archean clans. I wonder how the 8 saints of the Archean clans feel right now. Originally, I thought that the first majesty of the heavenly palace of Bishing would be the first sovereign to become a manifestation of the heavenly ways in our saints' world in several million years. Who would have thought that the first to break through would be the sacred Lord of all heaven? You can't say that. The first majesty of the heavenly palace of Bishing's battle prowess is indeed unparalleled. First, she hunted down the flame reverend, and now she hunted down the heaven-splitting ancestor. Probably only the 8 saints of the Archean clans have the ability to put up a fight against her. However, becoming a paragon is not as simple as a person's battle prowess. It also depends on one's own luck and luck. That's right. All those who can reach the 9th heavenly layer of Grand Prime possess monstrous talent. However, becoming a Grand Exalt doesn't just depend on talent. It depends on fate. With the birth of a new Grand Exalt, there are probably many supreme experts who are stuck at the 9th heavenly layer of Grand Primes who feel jealous. Sigh. Let's go back and carefully prepare a congratulatory gift. A new supreme being of a world is born. Another round of congratulations from all the races. The ripples of laws from the Saint Lord of all heaven entering the Grand Exalt's domain and becoming another sovereign of the saints' world calmed down very quickly. The boundless space of the saints' world returned to its original state of peace. However, the birth of a new sovereign had already spread across the entire saints' world. The hearts of all the peak experts in the saints' world churned. Jian Chen, Yun Wufeng, and He Qianqi on the ice pole plain recovered their previous composure as well. Whether the saints' world gained a Grand Exalt or lost a Grand Exalt, it was not something they should be concerned about. Matters on that level were just too far away from them. He Qianqi bid farewell to Jian Chen very soon and returned to the Tianhe clan. However, when he left, he secretly communicated with Yun Wufeng secretly, which immediately made Yun Wufeng become rather stern. Afterwards, Jian Chen returned to the ice cavern and began consuming the god-tier pills He Qianqi had brought from the Tianhe clan to recover the power of his soul. Yun Wufeng stayed close to Jian Chen to protect him. He remained on high alert the entire time, just in case the great elders of the Moon God Hall suddenly came looking for him. Time passed silently. Jian Chen consumed the god-tier pills, rapidly replenishing the power of his soul. Only when he had consumed a small portion of He Qianqi's god-tier pills did the power of his soul finally recover. Even the 4 strands of profound sword qi reformed. Only after condensing the profound sword qi did Jian Chen feel slightly more confident. He could not use the fusion of the twin swords so easily, so the profound sword qi had become his most powerful trump card. Young man, since you've recovered to your peak condition, it's time for old man to leave as well. As soon as Jian Chen recovered, Yun Wufeng began to bid farewell to him. Senior Yun, Yu Wuguang, is still alive. Don't you want to get rid of this traitor? I've recovered my strength now, so I can lend you a hand, Jian Chen said. Yun Wufeng became rather dejected. He shook his head and said, "We can't kill them right now. They've already become the Flame Reverend's lackeys. Keeping these lackeys alive might be able to keep the Flame Reverend in check temporarily. But once all the Flame Reverend's lackeys on the ice pole plane are eliminated, it might draw the Flame Reverend out prematurely. Young man, you don't have to worry about old man. He's recovered his strength now, while Yu Wuguang's injuries will take some time to recover. As a result, even if the 3 of them come looking for the old man, he'll be able to retreat safely." The light in Jian Chen's eyes flickered. He asked, "Did the great elder of the Tianhe clan say something to you?" Yun Wufeng sighed. "Young man, it's best that you don't get involved in the matters of the Moon God Hall. It's best if you don't offend the Flame Reverend. Fortunately, Yu Wuguang and the others still don't know your true identity, so it's not too late for you to back out now." "Is that so?" But the moon god Hall has harmed Fairy Haoyue, so I must avenge Fairy Haoyue. In the moon god Hall, whether it's an elder or a great elder, I won't let off anyone who's related to Fairy Haoyue's death. Fairy Haoyue's enemy is my enemy. Now that she's unable to avenge herself, I'll avenge her. Senior Yin, I only need a single sentence. Do you plan on completely staying out of this matter and letting me avenge Fairy Haoyue alone, or are you willing to lend me a hand? Jianqin said coldly. Yun Wufeng stared at Jianqin as mixed feelings and internal conflict flashed through his eyes. He looked at Jianqin's extremely determined expression and did not seem like he was joking. Naturally, he understood that Jianqin was serious about everything he said. He really would go to the moon god Hall alone and avenge you personally. After a while of thought, Yun Wufeng finally sighed. Sigh, whatever. Since you insist, old man can only lend you a hand. Otherwise, even if you have some mysterious abilities, it'll be very difficult for you to fend off Luo Fei and Lin Zhongjing, who are 5th heavenly layer chaotic primes by yourself. Young man, when do you plan on taking action? Chapter 3044. Jianqin was a decisive person. As soon as he made up his mind, he did not waste any time. He immediately made his way to the moon god Hall with Yun Wufeng. How do you plan on dealing with Yu Wuguang? Although Yu Wuguang is heavily injured, he's still a 7th heavenly layer chaotic prime after all, coupled with the 2 5th heavenly layer chaotic primes, Luo Fei and Lin Zhongjing, as well as the many infinite prime elders of the moon god Hall. Our chances of victory aren't great. Yun Wufeng still believed that Jianqin was a little too rash. He was not confident about dealing with the moon god Hall with just the two of them. Of course, this was because he did not know that Jianqin's profound sword qi had already recovered. To Yun Wufeng's understanding, the profound sword qi that Jianqin used against Yu Wuguang was a secret technique that came at a cost to himself. Secret techniques like that could not be used carelessly. Once they were used, they would require a very long time to recover. They were trump cards that could not be used recklessly unless it was a matter of life and death. As long as I have Senior's assistance, I'm 90% confident that I can deal with them or even kill them. We'll act according to the situation when the time comes, Jianqin said indifferently. He seemed confident that victory was within his grasp. In reality, 90% confidence was already a conservative estimate. If nothing unexpected happened, he was at least 10% confident. Moreover, the moon god Hall has already learnt about my disguise, so they'll definitely be on guard. As a result, I probably won't be able to sneak into the moon god Hall by disguising myself. This time, we can only use brute force. Jianqin added. He could not use the same method again. Yun Wufeng nodded. Old man has stayed in the moon god Hall for many years, so he's extremely familiar with all the formations there. With old man present, the various formations in the moon god Hall can be ignored. The two of them moved with lightning speed. With their speed as chaotic primes, they crossed most of the ice pole plain very quickly and returned to the snowy plains where the moon god Hall resided. Afterwards, they concealed their presences and shot through the cold wind like two ghosts, rapidly approaching the moon god Hall. At the same time, in the core area of the moon god Hall, the 3 remaining great elders of the moon god Hall were gathered together, sitting in a triangular formation on the ground. Elder Yu, all the divine pills that our moon divine hall is able to obtain that can heal the soul spirit have been given to you. How is the recovery of your soul spirit coming along? Of the 3 grand elders, Lin Zhongjing asked, his voice filled with concern. Yu Wuguang's face was still pale. He still hadn't fully recovered from the injuries caused by Yun Wufeng's divine battle skill. However, his injuries had stabilized over the past few days, and he was slowly recovering with the help of a large number of divine pills. Lin Zhongjing and Luo Fei, the 2 supreme elders, were not concerned about Yu Wuguang's injuries. Both of them knew that even though Yu Wuguang was severely injured, as long as he spent some money to purchase high-grade divine pills, it would not be difficult for him to recover. What was truly severely injured was his soul. Yu Wuguang was rather gloomy. He shook his head. Although these low-grade divine pills can heal the soul, their effects are very poor. These divine pills aren't of much help to Old Man's soul. Sigh, Old Man's soul is extremely heavily injured this time. It won't be easy for him to recover. I really don't know what kind of technique was used to have such a great effect on souls. The two grand elders, Luo Fei and Lin Zhongjing, looked at each other and sighed in their hearts. This time, in order to purchase the divine pill to heal Yu Wuguang, they had used up nearly a third of the Moon God Hall's wealth. However, in the end, the result was almost negligible. This made them feel bitter in their hearts. We can't waste any more time. We need to hunt down Yun Wufeng. Otherwise, once Yun Wufeng recovers, he'll pose quite the threat to our Moon God Hall with the assistance of an unknown, mysterious person. In particular, that mysterious person's methods are extremely strange and unfathomable. Not only did he heavily injure Old Man's soul using a special method, but even Old Man's God-tier battle skill suddenly lost its effect. He must have done something secretly. His ability to make a God-tier battle skill lose its effect doesn't matter. As long as we don't use a God-tier battle skill, his ability will be useless. Moreover, we don't need to use a God-tier battle skill against Yun Wufeng. What I'm truly afraid of is his ability to target the primordial spirit. Yu Wuguang still felt some lingering fear when he thought of Genshin's profound sword chi. Even Old Man doesn't know whether his ability is a one-time use or can be used multiple times. As a result, the two of you have to be extremely careful when you encounter him. Luo Fei frowned. It's impossible for such a heaven-defying ability to be used multiple times. I'm guessing that it must be some kind of special secret treasure and not some kind of secret technique. Taking a step back, even if it really is a special secret technique, the cost of using it will definitely be extremely great. According to my understanding of the various forbidden secret techniques in the world, it's impossible for such a secret technique to be used a second time in a short amount of time. As a result, if we want to take action, we need to act as soon as possible. Otherwise, the longer we delay, the greater the chances of him recovering and using it a second time will be. Lin Zhongjing said with a grim expression. Both he and Luo Fei became more and more fearful when they heard Yu Wuguang's description of the profound sword chi. Yu Wuguang stood up as powerful killing intent revolved around him. He called out, "There's no time to lose. Let's go right now. Underworld, Ghost Vine, come out and pursue the traitor with us." However, right at this moment, the expressions of the three grand elders in the core region of the Moon God Temple suddenly changed. That was because, at this moment, the three of them had keenly sensed that the temple seemed to be faintly trembling. Even though the trembling was almost inaudible, the senses of chaotic primes were extremely sharp. Nothing could escape their senses. In the next moment, the three of them sent out their souls at the same time. It's Yun Wufeng and Luo Fei. The two of them have already killed their way into the Moon God Hall. How dare they? How dare they? What do they think our Moon God Hall is? How dare they? Do they think our Moon God Hall is so easy to bully? Luo Fei, Lin Zhongjing, and Yu Wuguang were all furious. Their eyes were filled with malice. They were about to use the underworld Ghost Vine to hunt down Yun Wufeng. Yet the person they were supposed to be hunting had actually taken the initiative to attack their base. Chapter 3045. After experiencing the infiltration of the Moon God Hall, the internal checks had been raised to an extremely strict level. Any disciple that entered or left the Moon God Hall would have to undergo multiple identity checks. First, they would be tested for their blood, then their cultivation, and finally the toughness of their bodies. Even the esteemed infinite primes of the Moon God Hall could not avoid these tests. Moreover, due to the lesson of the past, the tests that all the infinite primes had to undergo were even stricter than the tests of regular disciples. All the disciples of the Moon God Hall, including the infinite primes, did not complain at all. Instead, they cooperated as much as they could. This was because the moon god Hall had already paid a bloody lesson for this recently. 3 great elders had died, and many infinite primes had been slain. This was a huge loss to the moon god Hall. The guards of the moon god Hall had become unprecedentedly powerful, for infinite primes personally stood guard at the entrance of the moon god Hall, just in case. However, at this moment, a pulse of energy that was irresistible to all infinite primes appeared from outside. It charged into the moon god Hall in a single instance and struck the 4 infinite primes there mercilessly. With a great boom, the 4 infinite primes, regardless of their heavenly layer, were blown away by the powerful energy. They vomited blood and slammed into the walls of the divine hall heavily. Immediately, powerful ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the main hall of the moon god Hall. It turned into a shockwave that was extremely powerful even to infinite primes. It blew all the disciples of the moon god Hall gathered there away, where they slammed into the tough walls in the surroundings. When the storm of energy wreaking havoc in the moon god temple's main hall gradually subsided, 2 figures appeared in the hall. One of them was a white-robed old man. He was the great elder that the disciples of the moon god Hall were extremely familiar with, Yun Wufeng. As for the other person, he was the 6th elder that all the infinite prime elders of the moon god Hall hated and feared. Right now, Jianqin was still using the identity of the 6th elder. He had hidden all of his secrets deeply. Yu Wuguang, Luo Fei, and Lin Zhongjing had betrayed the moon god Hall. They've already accepted Nan Patian as their master. Today, Old Man, as the great elder of the moon god Hall, will personally execute the traitors and bring order to the chaos. The disciples can be forgiven for their actions in the past. As long as you leave the moon god Hall, your actions in the past will be forgiven. Otherwise, you will all be executed as traitors. Yun Wufeng said loudly. His voice boomed through the moon god Hall like thunder, breaking through the obstructions of many formations and spread across most of the moon god Hall. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure flickered and disappeared from the hall, heading straight for the depths of the moon god Hall. Jianqin followed closely behind. Yun Wufeng was not enough to deal with Yu Wuguang. Lin Zhongjing and Yun Wufeng alone were not enough. They needed to work together. At the same time, Yu Wuguang, Luo Fei, and Lin Zhongjing all charged out with ashen faces in the depths of the moon god Hall. They charged towards Yun Wufeng and Jianqin, who had entered the moon god Hall. Something's wrong. On the surface, it seems like Yun Wufeng and the mysterious expert are not our opponent at all, yet they just happen to want to kill us. Do they have some sort of backing? We have to be extremely careful in this battle, especially the person who's pretending to be the 6th elder. We have to be extremely wary of his attacks on the souls of others. Don't tell me the mysterious person who's pretending to be the 6th elder is still capable of attacks that can harm the souls of others. Although Yu Wuguang, Lin Zhongjing, and Lin Zhongjing seemed unstoppable on the surface as they charged towards Yun Wufeng, they were all doubtful inside. They were extremely vigilant. What they truly feared was not Yun Wufeng. After all, they had known each other for so many years, so they knew what Yun Wufeng was capable of. The only thing they feared was Jianqin's profound sword qi. Very soon, the 2 sides encountered each other. This time, they did not waste any time. They began to fight as soon as they saw each other. Kill Yu Wuguang first. Let's end this quickly, Jianqin called out. He wielded the 9-star sword of heavenly ways as he radiated with the presence of a chaotic prime. He charged towards Yu Wuguang fearlessly. However, whether it was Yu Wuguang, Luo Fei, or Lin Zhongjing, their eyes all narrowed when they heard that Yun Wufeng wanted them to end the battle quickly. There were 3 chaotic primes right now. 2 of them were at the 5th heavenly layer, while the other was at the 7th heavenly layer. Even though Yu Wuguang was injured and no longer possessed his peak condition, he was still larger than a starving camel. He could take on Yun Wufeng. Apart from Yun Wufeng, The mysterious person who was pretending to be the sixth elder was only an early chaotic prime, even though he possessed the battle prowess of a chaotic prime. Logically speaking, it was impossible for such a lineup to fend off the three of them. Yet the mysterious person had called for them to end the battle quickly. He seemed to be extremely confident. Immediately, Yu Wuguang, Lin Zhongjing, and Lin Zhongjing thought of a strange attack that could attack the soul. At the same time, a pressure from the surroundings suddenly descended. Yun Wufeng had already used a god-tier battle skill as soon as possible as he glared at Yu Wuguang. Yu Wuguang shivered inside. He could not help but think back to what he had gone through in Moon Burial Cavern when he saw this familiar sight. He immediately retreated without any hesitation at all. At the same time, he placed most of his attention on Genshin's side. He was on guard against Genshin's profound sword chi. In an instant, Yun Wufeng finished charging up his god-tier battle skill. As he swung his sword, a huge, crescent-shaped blade suddenly appeared, shining with extremely resplendent light. Immediately, the space there shook violently. The entire Moon God Hall seemed to shake, shaking gently. However, the target of Yun Wufeng's god-tier battle skill was not the stern Yu Wuguang, who was on guard. Instead, it was the fifth heavenly layer chaotic prime, Great Elder, Lin Zhongjing. Lin Zhongjing's face changed drastically. He erupted with the power of his cultivation as he did everything he could to resist. However, at this moment, an extremely powerful sword intent appeared. Genshin's profound sword chi appeared once again, shooting towards Lin Zhongjing as a white streak of light. It's it. Old Man's soul was injured by this. Old Man will never forget this presence. The moment the profound sword chi appeared, Yu Wuguang's heart trembled, and his face changed rapidly. Lin Zhongjing also sensed the profound sword chi. Even though he had never seen Genshin's profound sword chi before, he had heard about it from Yu Wuguang, so he became wary. However, the profound sword chi would definitely hit its target. Aside from the Darkstar Emperor, Genshin had never encountered anyone who could dodge or block the profound sword chi. As a result, even though Lin Zhongjing was on guard, it was nothing before the profound sword chi. Swish! The profound sword chi tore through the air, piercing through all obstructions and entering Lin Zhongjing's forehead in a single instance. Lin Zhongjing's body trembled violently as he produced a bestial howl. His soul was not as powerful as Yu Wuguang's. Against a seventh heavenly layer expert like Yu Wuguang, Genshin needed to use 2 strands of profound sword chi. However, against a fifth heavenly layer chaotic prime like Lin Zhongjing, just a single strand of profound sword chi was enough to heavily injure his soul. However, his howl came to an end very soon. Yun Wufeng's god-tier battle skill descended. The crescent-shaped blade cleaved Lin Zhongjing's body in half from above with the power to split space. Lin Zhongjing's soul had been wiped out. Elder Lin actually died just like that. Luo Fei, who had personally witnessed Lin Zhongjing's death, instantly turned pale. A feeling of fear that had not appeared on him for many years involuntarily grew in his heart. Luo Fei was utterly terrified. It was not because Lin Zhongjing's death was too shocking to him, but because Lin Zhongjing had died too quickly. He basically could not put up a struggle at all. Chapter 3046. Luo Fei's sudden escape caught Genshin and Yun Wufeng rather off guard. However, if a fifth heavenly layer chaotic prime wanted to flee, even Yun Wufeng, a sixth heavenly layer expert, would struggle to stop him. In less than a breath's time, Luo Fei, who had been in the Moon God Hall just a moment ago, had already disappeared into the horizon. Elder Luo, how could you? Luo Fei's sudden escape shocked and angered Yu Wuguang. He glared at Luo Fei and let out an angry roar. But he had only said a few words when he realized that Luo Fei had disappeared without a trace. Yu Wuguang's expression changed rapidly. Not long ago, he, Lin Zhongjing, and Luo Fei were planning to use the ghost Rot Tan to track down Yun Wufeng's whereabouts. They planned to kill Yun Wufeng in one fell swoop and eliminate all future troubles. But unexpectedly, not only did Yun Wufeng and Lin Zhongjing take the initiative to kill their way to the Moon God Hall, but in the short time that the two sides fought, one of the two great Grand Elders of the Moon God Hall, Luo Fei and Lin Zhongjing, died and escaped. Yu Wuguang never expected such a dramatic outcome, but he also struggled to accept it. Logically speaking, the three great elders should have been more than enough to deal with Yun Wufeng, but in the end, they suffered a crushing defeat. Yu Wuguang stared at the mysterious expert who was still pretending to be the sixth elder. Even now, he still did not know his true identity. The hatred in his heart was so strong that it was like a raging wave that wanted to drown the entire sky. The reason why their Moon God Hall had fallen into such a sorry state today was all because of that mysterious expert of unknown identity. Who are you? How has our Moon God Hall offended you? Yu Wuguang gritted his teeth. He was still confused as to why this mysterious expert would interfere with the matters of the Moon God Hall. He had no idea what was going on. Jianqin said nothing, but Yun Wufeng could not help but laugh aloud. Yu Wuguang, when you betrayed the Moon God Hall with Nan Patian back then, did you ever think about what the Moon God Hall had done to you? Did we offend you in any way? Furthermore, when you wantonly executed so many innocent disciples of the Moon God Hall back then, did you ever think about how those disciples of the Moon God Hall who died at your hands had offended you? Back then, when you executed so many innocent disciples and elders of the Moon God Hall, you were so ruthless and merciless, killing so many innocent people. Did you ever have a reason? But now Yu Wuguang, the head of the Grand Elders, actually stood in the Moon God Palace and asked such a question. Ha 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 ha, Yu Wuguang. To think that you would also end up like this. Yu Wuguang, when you betrayed the Moon God Hall back then, you probably never thought that you would end up like this one day. Yun Wufeng laughed loudly. He could not help but recall the past. The heart-wrenching scenes that had happened back then seemed to have deeply stimulated him, causing him to appear somewhat insane. Yu Wuguang, today, old man will make you pay with your blood and clean up the Moon God Hall. Suddenly, Yun Wufeng bellowed out. His presence skyrocketed as killing intent surged. He wielded a sword as he suddenly attacked Yu Wuguang with an unstoppable force. Yun Wufeng, you don't have the right to kill old man. Even if the old man is heavily injured, you're still not his opponent, Yu Wuguang said coldly. Determination filled his eyes. In the next moment, he used some sort of forbidden technique. His organs began to burn on their own. All the meridians in his body melted in an instant, and even a portion of his flesh disappeared. His body seemed to have withered even more. He had used a forbidden technique to burn his organs, his meridians, and a portion of his flesh and blood at the cost of harming himself to obtain great power. Not only that, but his eyes also suddenly exploded at this moment. However, after losing his eyes, the aura on his body had clearly become stronger. After paying such a heavy price, Yu Wuguang temporarily returned to his peak battle prowess as a seventh heavenly layer chaotic prime. Afterwards, he avoided the aggressive Yun Wufeng and stared in Genshin's direction with his bloodied, hollow eyes. He charged towards Genshin with surging hatred. Immediately, a powerful pressure arrived, crushing down on Genshin like a mountain. It caused Genshin's body to tighten. The powerful presence of a seventh heavenly layer chaotic prime had locked onto Genshin firmly. His bony right hand seemed to become the claw of a ghost, reaching towards Genshin's skull with cold killing intent. Yu Wuguang absolutely hated Genshin. As a result, not only did he strike out with all the power he could muster, causing space to crack, but he also struck out extremely quickly, basically arriving in an instant. However, while Yu Wuguang was fast, Genshin was even faster. This was because Genshin could use the profound sword chi with a single thought. He could use the profound sword chi with a single thought. Jianqin had already shot out a second strand of profound sword qi from the sword intent that had left a deep impression on Yu Wuguang. The profound sword qi was unrivaled in the world. It could completely break through the limits of space, arriving in an instant. He can actually still use it. Yu Wuguang could not help but shiver when he sensed the presence of the profound sword qi. At that moment, he could not help but wonder just how many times Jianqin could use soul attacks like that. Unfortunately, although he could sense the appearance of the profound sword qi, he was unable to dodge it. Moreover, the profound sword qi ignored all of his defenses, so even if he cast down layers of energy around himself, even if he wore god artifact armor, they were useless before the profound sword qi. The outcome was no different. The profound sword qi arrived first, heavily injuring Yu Wuguang's soul once again. Although Yu Wuguang had used a secret technique to temporarily recover his battle prowess to the level of a 7th heavenly layer chaotic prime at the cost of self-harm, his soul had not recovered. His soul had already been heavily injured, so it had suffered another attack from the profound sword qi. Without a doubt, it had become even more injured. Moreover, with the addition of the old and new injuries, the damage caused to him was so great that his primordial spirit almost couldn't bear it and directly collapsed. Once it collapsed completely, it would basically mean the death of his soul. Yu Wuguang cried out miserably. The energy that had condensed around him immediately became chaotic. He clutched his head firmly as he knelt on the ground in pain. At the same time, Yun Wufeng turned around. His gaze was extremely cold, and his sword immediately stabbed out from Yu Wuguang's back, piercing through his chest. The sharp tip of the sword emerged from Yu Wuguang's chest as blood dripped down. Yu Wuguang bellowed out furiously. He suddenly grabbed the sword that had pierced through his chest and immediately charged forward, breaking free from Yun Wufeng's sword. Afterwards, he stopped fighting. He used all of his power to move, fleeing as quickly as he could. Chapter 3047. In the blink of an eye, the battle between the chaotic primes in the Moon God Hall came to an end. Although the battle was extremely short, it had changed the fate of the Moon God Hall in that short amount of time. Now, for out of the 7 great elders of the Moon God Hall had died apart from Yun Wufeng, the 5th heavenly layer chaotic prime, Luo Fei, and the 7th heavenly layer chaotic prime, Yu Wuguang, had fled. They were originally supreme elders of the Moon God Hall, the pillars of the Moon God Hall. But now they had abandoned their foundations without any hesitation. Their flight seemed to indicate that the Moon God Hall had truly begun to decline. Before long, the infinite prime elders of the Moon God Hall all surged into the battlefield. As soon as they arrived, they saw the corpse of the great elder, Lin Zhongjing. Jianqin did not manage to take the corpse away in time, so it appeared before all the infinite prime elders in a bloody state. Grand, grand, grand elder. Immediately, the expressions of all the elders of the Moon God Hall gathered here changed, and a heavy feeling of grief enveloped the place. No one said anything else. They all stared at Lin Zhongjing's corpse. The atmosphere was extremely heavy and heavy. After a long while, an aged voice filled with boundless emotion resounded in the silent hall. The hall master has fallen, and the grand elders have either died, been injured, or fled. Could it be that our Moon God Hall is finished just like this? No one said anything. Everyone remained silent. Only after a while did an elder say, "Although we no longer have a hall master or a great elder, don't forget that there's still a supreme expert behind our Moon God Hall, the Flame Reverend." The Flame Reverend? He. Do you think the Flame Reverend will be interested in us infinite primes? An elder laughed in a self-deprecating manner. Outside the Moon God Hall, Yu Wuguang expended the last of his strength to flee through the hazy world of ice and snow. Several 100,000 kilometers behind him, Yun Wufeng and Jianqin were in hot pursuit. Even though they were already chasing at full speed, the distance between them and Moonless was still increasing bit by bit. because Yu Wuguang had used a secret technique in exchange for great power at the cost of his own life. He had temporarily returned to his peak battle prowess at the 7th heavenly layer. As a result, he was extremely fast, gradually leaving Yun Wufeng behind. However, it was precisely because he had sacrificed himself in exchange for great strength, and because his own condition had already reached an extremely terrible state, that he no longer had the strength to conceal his presence as he frantically fled, much less the ability to conceal his tracks. As a result, even though the distance between him and Yun Wufeng was growing, Yun Wufeng could still clearly sense his location. Even though they were millions of kilometers apart, Yu Wuguang was still like a lantern in the night to Yun Wufeng and Jianchen. Jianchen also pushed his speed to the limit as he pursued. However, even with the laws of space, he could only barely keep up with Yun Wufeng's speed. After all, even if he ignored his battle prowess, he was only a 9th heavenly layer infinite prime. He was still a step away from true chaotic primes. His comprehension of the laws of space was even lower. He was only an 8th heavenly layer infinite prime. If he faced some early chaotic primes, Jianchen would still possess an advantage with the laws of space. However, he was currently facing the 6th heavenly layer chaotic prime Yun Wufeng and the 7th heavenly layer Yu Wuguang. Before the two experts, his laws of space naturally did not possess an advantage. Even if he could keep up with Yun Wufeng's speed, it would still be an extraordinary performance. Yun Wufeng looked at Jianchen, who was actually able to keep up with him, and a smear of surprise appeared in his eyes. This was because he could clearly sense that Jianchen's affinity with space far surpassed experts of the same level. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to keep up with a 6th heavenly layer chaotic prime with the laws of space as an 8th heavenly layer infinite prime. Yu Wuguang won't be able to last much longer. He'll run out of energy very soon. You better enter Old Man's divine hall and let Old Man carry you, Yun Wufeng said to Jianchen secretly. There's no need. I can keep up. Jianchen replied. His body seemed to have completely fused with space. He moved silently, crossing several tens of thousand kilometers with a single flash. It was like teleportation. He was not trying to show off. Instead, he needed to use the profound sword qi to deter Yu Wuguang, so that he could prevent Yu Wuguang from using any other methods to launch a counterattack. I still have 2 strands of profound sword qi left. I'll try not to use them if I can, thought Jianchen. As he chased, he would consume the pills he had obtained from the Tianhe clan from time to recover the power of his soul. As the 2 of them fled, they crossed the entire ice pole plain very quickly with their great speeds as chaotic primes. They even circled around the ice pole plain a few times, alarming many organizations on the plain. They became the center of attention. It seems like they're from the Moon God Hall. It looks like something has happened to the Moon God Hall again. The person fleeing in front is the great elder of the Moon God Hall, Yu Wuguang. The person pursuing him seems to be a great elder of the Moon God Hall as well. But who's the other person? The Moon God Hall is very complicated. We can't interfere with it. We can't interfere with it at all. Let's just watch. Whether it's the Moon God Hall or the Hefeng clan that has lost their grand prime ancestor, they all have the flame reverend's shadow behind them. We can't act recklessly, just in case we get into trouble in the future. At this moment, Yu Wuguang's pulses of energy gradually weakened. The great energy he had exchanged for at the cost of his own life was finally about to be used up. Even his speed of escape became slower and slower. Could it be that I, Yu Wuguang, am going to die here today? Yu Wuguang thought. He was filled with great reluctance. He raised his head to look at the boundless starry sky. This was the first time in his life that he felt such despair. He was just too weak right now, and his soul was unimaginably injured. He was on the brink of collapse, so not only did he struggle to control his energy perfectly, but he did not even have the ability to hide himself. All he could do was squander his remaining energy, helplessly and in despair, struggling powerlessly to survive. However, Yu Wuguang soon made up his mind. He thought Yun Wufeng, and that mysterious person who's disguised as the sixth elder. Even if I die today, I won't let you off easily." With that, Yu Wuguang changed directions. He continued to burn his remaining energy, rapidly approaching the center of the ice pole plain with lightning speed. Jian Qin and Yun Wufeng naturally followed closely behind Yu Wuguang. They changed directions and pursued him rapidly. As Yu Wuguang's energy was about to run out, he gradually slowed down. As a result, the distance between them became shorter and shorter. The two of them flew at high speeds, crossing countless glaciers and hundreds of millions of kilometers. However, at this moment, Jian Chen's heart suddenly shuddered as he pursued them from behind. Chapter 3048. This temple seemed to be formed from endless ice and snow. It was pure white and flawless, perfectly blending into this world of ice and snow. However, this shrine was simply too large and majestic. It was larger than any of the towering glaciers in Ice Pole Province and more majestic than any of the mountains. It was as if it was the backbone of the world, propping up the sky. Moreover, there was an indescribably vast pressure emanating from the Shrine of Ice. It was a mysterious divine might that could suppress the heavens and rewrite all Daos. "This is the Ice Goddess Hall," Jianqin murmured in a low voice. Looking at the huge temple that was faintly discernible in the heavy snow, his expression became complicated. Was this the place where Second Sister used to live? That's right. This is indeed the Ice Goddess Hall. It seems that Yu Wuguang wants to escape into the Ice Goddess Hall. Yun Wufeng spoke in a low voice while his expression became unprecedentedly solemn, and he seemed to be slightly hesitant in his heart. Should I pursue him or not? In the current Ice Pole Province, the Ice Goddess Hall was basically ownerless, and anyone could enter. However, this was the resting place of the great Ice God, who had once been a supreme being. Although the fate of the great Ice God was unknown, the Ice Goddess Hall's position in the Ice Pole Province was deeply rooted. It was not shaken in the slightest. In the hearts of many powerhouses in the Ice Pole Province, it was a sacred and inviolable existence. As a result, Yun Wufeng immediately wanted to retreat when he arrived before the Ice Goddess Hall. He did not dare to offend them. He was even more unwilling to kill Yu Wuguang in the Ice Goddess Hall, lest her dirty blood splatter in the Ice Goddess Hall and sully the supreme holy land in his heart. Chase after him, even if he fled into the Ice Goddess Hall. We still have to kill him today. Jianqin did not have as many misgivings. Speaking of which, his second sister could be considered as half a master of the Ice Goddess Hall. As a result, he was not as wary of the Ice Goddess Hall as Yun Wufeng was. Jianqin instantly passed by Yun Wufeng, his figure disappearing into the fluttering snow. Seeing that Jianqin had already made the first move, Yun Wufeng had no choice but to sigh and follow after him. In the depths of the Ice Goddess Hall, there was a region enveloped by cold mist. This cold fog was clearly very unusual. Not only was it impossible to see through it with the naked eye, and spiritual senses were unable to approach it, even the space within the cold fog would occasionally emit waves of ripples. This feeling was as if the space that was shrouded by the cold mist had turned into a heart, beating powerfully and shaking the space. Whenever this pulse appeared, it would release terrifying killing intent that was enough to make any Grand Prime tremble. This cold mist was the Ice God Formation, a powerful killing formation personally set up by a Grand Exalt. The existence of the Ice God Formation was no longer a secret in the Ice Pole Province. There were many different opinions about it. Some people said that one of the 7 Grand Exalts in the past, the Great Ice Goddess, was hidden in the Ice God Formation. She was either slumbering from her heavy injuries or recovering. There were also people who said that the Ice God Formation was a trap purposefully cast down by the Ice Goddess so that people would think that she was still alive. However, the reality was that the Ice Goddess had already died, or she had reincarnated without anyone knowing. Of course, no matter what people thought or what they thought, the Ice God Formation was truly very powerful. so powerful that no one dared to set foot in it until now. As a result, the scenery within the ice god formation became an unsolvable mystery. At this moment, a white-robed man stood outside the ice god formation. The man seemed to be in his 40s. His appearance was nothing special, but he gave off the presence of an infinite prime. He stood outside the ice god formation as he could not help but tremble. Even his eyes became misty, gradually condensing into tears that rolled down his cheeks. Suddenly he knelt on the ground. His crystal-like tears flowed out of his eyes and streaked across his ordinary face. Drop by drop, they fell to the ground and condensed into ice beads. "Your Majesty, are you still in there? Your Majesty, can you hear me? Your Majesty, I have fulfilled my mission. I've successfully brought Her Majesty back to the Saints' world. However, Her Majesty needs help. Your Majesty, if you really are in there, I beg you to wake up quickly. Your Majesty, can you hear your servant's voice? Please wake up! Please wake up!" The man knelt on the ground as he constantly trembled. He sobbed, sobbing softly. However, as he sobbed, his voice gradually changed. It went from a man's voice to a woman's voice. Ha 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 ha, the ancestor really does have great foresight. Shui Yunlan, one of the 4 great protectors of the Ice Goddess Hall. No matter how carefully you try to hide, you still can't escape from the ancestors' plans. You really did come here. However, at this moment, an old voice rang out from behind. An old man with a bamboo hat silently appeared behind him. The sudden voice caused the white-robed man's face to immediately change drastically. In the next moment, he burned his essence blood without any hesitation and used a secret technique to flee as quickly as he could. Ha 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 ha, before this old man, there's no need for you to put up a pointless struggle as a new infinite prime. Our ancestor has invited you. He hopes you can come with me. The old man with the bamboo hat laughed. The old man chuckled. His presence erupted as the tremendous pressure of an 8th heavenly layer chaotic prime flooded the surroundings. The white-robed man's body immediately sank. Under the pressure, his speed was immediately restricted. However, before he could do anything else, a huge hand, completely condensed from energy, fell from above. It seemed to form a cage that sealed off the surroundings, falling from the sky loudly. "Since you know who I am, how dare you act so recklessly? You're looking to die," the white-robed man called out. His voice had completely become a cold female voice. "Looking to die? Ha 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 ha, the ice goddess is already dead. This so-called ice goddess formation is just a diversion. Do you think the current ice goddess hall is still the ice goddess hall of the past? It looks like you still haven't accepted reality," the old man with the bamboo hat said. The huge palm of energy he had condensed had already descended, sealing off the space there. It seemed to form a sealed prison as it held the white-clothed man tightly in his hand. The difference between them was just too great. It was indeed difficult for a new infinite prime to escape from an 8th heavenly layer chaotic prime. The white-robed man's eyes became cold. There was no fear. There was only overwhelming hatred. Soon after, the aura on his body rapidly withered. He used the secret technique once again, causing his body that was firmly trapped by the energy palm to suddenly disappear and reappear in the distance. After that, he madly fled without looking back. Chapter 3049. The majestic ice goddess hall was like a primordial beast, standing silently in the fluttering snow. Although the artifact spirit of the divine hall was no longer present, it still possessed a terrifying presence that could suppress the world. The grand divine hall of the ice goddess hall was wide open as well. Anyone could enter. Even the many formations and restrictions within the ice goddess hall lost their effectiveness. In the entire ice goddess hall, only the ice goddess formation in the deepest part of the hall was restricted. At this moment, Yu Wuguang's presence was dim outside the ice goddess hall. She used the remaining power in her body and smashed through the snowflakes. She directly charged through the wide open doors of the divine hall, entering the interior of the divine hall. His speed was already becoming slower and slower. Clearly, he had already reached the point where he was like a lamp that had run out of oil. As soon as Yu Wuguang entered the Moon God Hall, Jianqin pursued him from behind. The laws of space pulsed around him, and with a single step he entered the Ice Goddess Hall as well. Closely behind him was the great elder of the Moon God Hall, Yu Wuguang. Stepping through the entrance, the first thing that entered their sights was an extremely spacious hall. Instead of calling it a hall, it would be more accurate to call it a boundless plain because the hall was just too large. It was impossible to see the end of it with the naked eye. The interior of the Ice Goddess Hall clearly had the effect of a pocket dimension. The space inside was as large as a miniature world, far larger than the size of the Ice Goddess Hall on the outside. With a flash, Yu Wuguang's broken body appeared in the hall of the Ice Goddess Hall. However, he could no longer maintain his ability to fly after arriving there. He immediately fell out of the sky and heavily hit the ground. Afterwards, a thin layer of ice rapidly spread across his body. In a single moment, Yu Wuguang seemed to have been reduced to an ice sculpture. The coldness within the Ice Goddess Hall was extremely powerful. Although it was nothing to primordial realm experts in perfect condition, resisting it was not difficult at all. However, not only was Yu Wuguang heavily injured, but he had also basically used up all the power he had obtained from using the secret technique at the cost of his own life. He was already on his last legs. He was so weak that he couldn't even resist the coldness of the Ice Goddess Hall. The Ice God Formation, the Ice God Formation. The old man wants to go to the Ice God Formation. Even if he dies, the old man will sacrifice himself to trigger the power of the Ice God Formation and let the two of you die with the old man. Yu Wuguang's eyes were empty. If his eyes were still there, one would see the intense hatred in his eyes. He clenched his teeth and held on, using all his strength to drag his frozen body towards the depths of the Ice Goddess Hall. But now his speed was not even 1/10 of what it was outside the temple. Yu Wuguang, you have nowhere else to go. At this moment, Yun Wufeng's ancient voice rang out from behind. With a flash, he and Jianqin appeared in front of Yu Wuguang in a single moment, blocking his path. Although Yu Wuguang had lost his eyes, he was still a 7th heavenly layer chaotic prime after all. As a result, he could clearly sense everything in the surroundings, even though he could not see. Yu Wuguang's face immediately twisted when he sensed Yun Wufeng and Yun Wufeng. He seemed to have sunk into some sort of madness, as he said, resentfully, Yun Wufeng, if I had known earlier that you would bring disaster to the Moon God Hall today, old man would have gotten rid of you, completely back then no matter what, so that there would be no future trouble. Old man was filled with regret. He regretted not begging the Hall Master to kill you completely back then. Otherwise, the Moon God Hall would never have ended up like this. Yu Wuguang, you traitor. You still refuse to realize your mistakes, even when you're about to die. If you hadn't betrayed the Moon God Hall with Nan Patian in the past, the Moon God Hall would never have ended up like this. Yun Wufeng's face sank as he said through gritted teeth, think about how many disciples of the Moon God Hall have been killed by you in the past few years, and how many innocent elders have fallen to your hands. Even little you, was not spared. You traitors of the Moon God Hall have committed far too many heinous crimes. You've committed far too many sins. Today, I, Yun Wufeng, will clean up the Moon God Hall and personally kill you, traitor. Killing intent shone in Yun Wufeng's eyes as he suddenly swung down with his sword, immediately wiping out Yu Wuguang's soul. Immediately, Yu Wuguang's presence rapidly dispersed. All signs of life vanished. He had completely passed away. The mighty great elder of the Moon God Hall, a 7th heavenly layer chaotic prime, lay in a pool of blood just like that. However, Yun Wufeng did not rejoice at all after killing Yu Wuguang. Instead, he became gloomy. He stood before Yu Wuguang's corpse silently. Only after quite a while did he sigh deeply. Jianqin looked at Yu Wuguang's corpse as well. Mixed feelings filled his eyes. He knew very well that this seventh heavenly layer chaotic prime had basically died to his hands. If it were not for his profound sword chi, it would have been impossible for Yun Wufeng to be Yu Wuguang's opponent. Suddenly, Jianqin's eyes narrowed. He fused with the surrounding space and vanished in a single instant. When he reappeared, he was already 100 kilometers away. Afterwards, the 9-star sword of heavenly ways appeared in his hand, and he directly swung down at the empty space. Arg! A chilling cry immediately rang out from the empty space. It was as if a soul had completely dispersed from Jianqin's strike. Yun Wufeng suddenly turned around, and his face became ugly. He growled, "It's Yu Wuguang." He actually released a sliver of his soul without anyone noticing. That was close. He almost got away. Yu Wuguang should be dead for good now. Jianqin stowed the 9-star sword of heavenly ways away and appeared beside Yun Wufeng with a single movement. He looked at Yu Wuguang's damaged body and shook his head in disdain. He immediately gave up on the idea of collecting nutrients for the immortal devouring orchid. At this moment, a pulse of energy appeared near Jianqin and Yun Wufeng. A white-robed, ordinary-looking man appeared out of nowhere. His hair was disheveled, and he was in a horrible shape. His face was sheet white. Spurt! As soon as he appeared, a mist of blood sprayed from his mouth. Bits of his organs scattered in the snow-white world. Ha ha! Afterwards, an old man's laughter rang out, echoing through the surroundings. An old man with a bamboo hat chased over from behind. He moved extremely quickly, appearing before the white-robed man in a single instant. With a wave of his hand, a huge bronze cauldron appeared. It gave off the might of a medium-quality god artifact, locking down the space around the white-robed man. Afterwards, the cauldron fell backwards, enveloping the white-robed man immediately. From the moment the white-robed man appeared to the moment he was sucked into the cauldron, only a few seconds had passed. It was extremely short. 8th heavenly layer chaotic prime. Yun Wufeng and Jianqin witnessed this from nearby, and their hearts immediately shivered. The old man with the bamboo hat was even more powerful than Yu Wuguang. However, Jianqin felt rather doubtful. The white-robed man who had just appeared gave him a familiar feeling, as if he had seen him somewhere before. However, no matter how hard he tried, he was unable to figure out where this sense of familiarity came from. The old man also discovered Jianqin and Yun Wufeng. Heavy killing intent immediately flashed through his eyes hidden behind the bamboo hat. However, when he glanced at Yu Wuguang's corpse from the corner of his eye, his heart immediately shivered. He thought, 7th heavenly layer chaotic prime. These two can actually kill a 7th heavenly layer chaotic prime and force him into such a miserable state. Chapter 3050. The sacred and inviolable land of the past has become so chaotic now. Sigh. Yun Wufeng could not help but sigh deeply when he witnessed the white-robed man's capture. His face was filled with melancholy. Then he walked up to Yu Wuguang's body and put it into his interspatial ring. It wasn't just Yu Wuguang's body. Even the bloodstains that Yu Wuguang had left on the ground were wiped clean by Yun Wufeng with his own hands. Yun Wufeng had a blind faith in the Ice Goddess Hall. Even though the Ice Goddess Hall had already fallen, it was still an inviolable sacred land in his heart. Jianqin paid no attention to Yun Wufeng's actions. His brows were still furrowed as the image of that white-clothed man, who was clearly extremely unfamiliar yet somehow gave him a trace of familiarity, repeatedly surfaced in his mind. He was repeatedly pondering where exactly he had seen this person before. At this time, he noticed that when the white-robed man first appeared, the mouthful of blood he coughed up was still there. The blood that was sprayed everywhere along with bits of his organs was still there. Jianqin walked in front of the bloodstains left behind by the white-clothed man. With a thought, a few drops of blood that had been frozen into ice beads slowly floated up. As the blood of a primordial realm expert, every single droplet pulsed with quite a lot of energy. It had yet to disperse. As for Jianqin, with his powerful senses, he seemed to be able to see through the weak aura left in the blood and directly discern the true identity of the owner. Suddenly, Jianqin seemed to have discovered something. His body shook violently and his expression changed greatly. Even his gaze became extremely terrifying at this moment. It's her, it's actually her. The extreme shock caused Jianqin to cry out involuntarily. His heart was shaking violently, and in that instant, huge waves surged to the heavens. This was because he had already learnt the man's true identity through the droplets of blood. To no surprise, it was Shui Yunlan. Shui Yunlan was the only person who knew where his sister was. If he wanted to find his sister, he needed to go through Shui Yunlan. When Yun Wufeng heard Jianqin's exclamation, he couldn't help but turn his head with an inquiring expression. "Young friend, what's wrong?" But soon after, he noticed that Jianqin's expression had become extremely gloomy, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. However, in the next moment, Jianqin suddenly vanished. Even the laws of space on him became rather unstable, pulsing violently as he pursued madly. At the same time, a frantic voice rang out in Yun Wufeng's head. "Chase, chase, chase! We can't let that chaotic prime escape. Even if we have to pay a great price, we have to make him stay." There was a hint of madness in Jianqin's tone, as if he was ready to abandon everything and disregard everything else. He understood in a single moment that Shui Yunlan's capture was not a simple matter. At the same time, it was not because Shui Yunlan had provoked some sort of enemy. The enemy's true target was his sister, Changyang Mingyue. At the same time, she was the ice goddess of the Ice Goddess Hall. Jianqin charged out of the Ice Goddess Hall as quickly as he could. He expanded the senses of his soul as quickly as possible, enveloping the surroundings. Even his 2 remaining strands of profound sword qi readied themselves, ready to be used at any time. Unfortunately, when the senses of his soul wreaked havoc in the surroundings, he failed to discover anything. As a matter of fact, he did not even find a single trace. The 8th heavenly layer chaotic prime who had captured Shui Yunlan seemed to have vanished into thin air. He did not leave behind any clues. He immediately realized that his cultivation was far too low. With a flash, the doubtful Yun Wufeng appeared before Jianqin. Just when he was about to ask, Jianqin beat him to it. He became extremely worried. "Senior Yin, quick, help me find traces of that person. We have to stop him." Although Yun Wufeng did not know the details, he could tell how worried Jianqin was. He immediately nodded. "All right, old man will assist you with everything he has." With that, Yun Wufeng's senses of the 6th heavenly layer chaotic prime's soul suddenly expanded. The senses of the soul were far more powerful than Jianqin's. Even though Jianqin's soul had fused with a strand of true chaotic force, he was still unable to rival a mid-chaotic prime with his current level of cultivation. Yun Wufeng did not hold back either. As he searched with the senses of his soul, he formed seals with his hands and used a secret technique to peer into the surroundings. In the end, the light of divination even flickered through his eyes. A while later, Yun Wufeng stopped searching. He shook his head gently with a sigh. The 8th heavenly layer chaotic prime has concealed his presence and erased all traces. With old man's abilities, I can't find him. Can't you even find the direction he went in?" Jianqin asked in a hurry. His eyes had already become rather red and bloodshot. He knew that the 8th heavenly layer chaotic prime who had abducted Shui Yunlan definitely had the support of an extremely great organization. Once Shui Yunlan ended up in the hands of an organization like that, even if Shui Yunlan was loyal, she would struggle to keep any secrets from them with the abilities of peak experts. This was because there were just far too many secret techniques that could bewitch and control the soul in the Saint's world. These secret techniques could make a person spill all their secrets without them knowing it. Once they used this method on Shui Yunlan, his sister would be in danger. "My friend, I'm truly sorry. Old man has really done everything he can. Yun Wufeng said in guilt. Yun Wufeng was filled with remorse. Jianqin had helped him far too much. Not only had he helped him escape from the Moon God Hall, but he had even killed a group of traitors. However, in the end, when Jianqin needed help, he was unable to do anything. Jianqin's chest heaved as his emotions fluctuated extremely violently. He was like an ant on a hot pan, pacing back and forth in the air anxiously. What do I do? What do I do? They've captured Shui Yinlan, so my sister's hiding place can be exposed at any time. But right now, I don't even know who they are. What am I supposed to do? Jianqin grabbed his hair firmly. At that moment, he truly hated the fact that he possessed supreme power that could suppress everything. Otherwise, he would not be so helpless right now. The Tianhe clan. I'll try looking for the Tianhe clan. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Jianqin's head. He immediately used space and left in a hurry. He did not even have the time to bid farewell to Yun Wufeng. Jianqin arrived at Sky Crane Divine City as quickly as he could. Along the way, he notified He Qianqi through the medallion of the Sky Crane clan. As a result, He Qianqi also arrived at Sky Crane Divine City from the Sky Crane clan. My friend, why are you in such a hurry? Don't tell me you've gotten into a huge mess because of the Moon God Hall? He Qianqi asked as soon as they met. Chapter 3051. Seeing Jianqin's eagerness, He Qianqi didn't waste any more time and nodded. All right, I will bring you to the ancestor now. With that said, He Qianqi turned around and flew into the ice mountain behind Sky Crane Divine City. Jianqin followed behind He Qianqi. Both of them unleashed the speed of chaotic primes, moving extremely quickly. Not long after, Jianqin was led by He Qianqi through a very powerful defensive formation and officially entered the Tianhe clan. The Tianhe clan was situated in the middle of an iceberg. There were countless buildings, pavilions, terraces, and pagodas here. They were either built against the mountain or cut off from the middle of the mountain. They were built on a platform that was as smooth as a mirror. From time to time, there would be ice cranes flying in the sky, emitting crisp cries. There were even disciples of the Tianhe clan accompanying them. Greetings, Supreme Elder. Greetings, Supreme Elder. He Qianqi led Jianqin through the ice mountains, straight into the depths of the Sky Crane clan. Along the way, they met many disciples of the Sky Crane clan. All of them bowed and saluted respectfully. He Qianqi, on the other hand, had a benevolent look on his face as he nodded and smiled at the juniors who bowed to him. I've already used a secret technique to send a message to the Patriarch. As for whether or not the Patriarch can help you, that's not something I can decide. Along the way, He Qianqi transmitted his voice to Jianqin. Although he didn't know what kind of trouble Jianqin was in, his sharp senses told him that it wasn't a small matter. If it wasn't handled properly, there would be a lot of implications. It was just that the 5 kilograms of divine blood soil that Jianqin took out made the Tianhe clan owe him a huge favor. This favor made it difficult for the Tianhe clan to reject any request from Jianqin. Of course, what happened after that was not something that a supreme elder like He Qianqi could decide. Everything was up to the Patriarch. Suddenly, He Qianqi's face changed. He was both surprised and expected. He turned around and transmitted his voice to Jianqin. The Patriarch has agreed to see you. However, the one who will see you this time is Patriarch Lan, one of the 3 patriarchs of our Tianhe clan. Patriarch Lan's words are supreme in our Tianhe clan. The other 2 patriarchs paled in comparison. As a result, you have to be respectful when you meet Patriarch Lan this time, He Qianqi warned Jianqin sternly. He Qianqi's eyes his attention, and only when he finished speaking, he finally arrived at the Patriarch Lan's place of cultivation. What appeared before Jianqin was an upside-down iceberg that hovered in the air. The tip of the iceberg was pointed downwards, while the waist of the iceberg had been cut off by a sharp blade, forming an extremely large piece of land that faced the sky. However, around this floating mountain. There seemed to be endless snow fluttering in the wind, like a white curtain covering the ice mountain. From the outside, it looked hazy, faintly discernible, and gave off a sense of mystery. This is the flying snow peak where Patriarch Lan lives in seclusion. It's one of the 3 ancestral peaks of our Tianhe clan. This is as far as I can send you. Patriarch Lan is waiting for you on the ancestral peak. You can go there by yourself. He-Chen-Chi stopped and said solemnly. Jianchen nodded. After bidding farewell to He-Chen-Chi with cupped fists, he immediately passed through the thick snow covering the flying snow peak and stepped on the ground. It was also at this moment that the snow on the flying snow peak suddenly parted down the middle, forming a path that extended towards Jianchen. Jianchen hesitated slightly before immediately making his way through the path. In the end, he entered a divine hall that seemed like an ice sculpture. As soon as he set foot in the divine hall, a terrifying coldness greeted him. It immediately caused Jianchen's body to shudder as a layer of ice rapidly condensed on the surface of his body. The coldness was extremely terrifying, as if it could invade his body. Not only did it make him feel extremely cold, but even his blood seemed to freeze. Even the circulation of his chaotic force slowed down. A woman in white clothes stood in the center of the hall with her back to him. He could not make out her face. There was a huge pill cauldron in front of her. A thick pill fragrance permeated the air from the cauldron. With a single breath, one would feel refreshed, as if their limbs and bones had been purified. All of their exhaustion had been swept away. However, the flames used to refine the pills were not the laws of fire that Jianchen knew of. Instead, it was an icy flame formed from ice. The icy flame did not have the slightest bit of heat. There was only a despair-inducing, extreme coldness. Junior Yang Yutian pays his respects to Patriarch Lan. Jianchen knew that the woman before him was the Patriarch Lan that He-Chen-Chi spoke of. He immediately bowed, respectfully. Yang Yutian, you're the person who pretended to be the 5th Hall Master in the Dark Star realm back then, and toyed with the various major forces in the 100 Saint City. Patriarch Lan spoke. Her voice was very gentle, lively, and crisp. It was truly as beautiful as the sounds of nature. She did not wait for Jianchen to speak and continued, You do indeed have some skills, disregarding everything else. Just this disguise is something that even I am unable to see through. Speak. Why have you come to find me in such a hurry? Patriarch Lan, an extremely important friend of mine, has been kidnapped by an unknown expert. That person has used profound methods to conceal all traces. This junior is incompetent, so I have come to the Tianhe clan for help. I hope that Patriarch Lan can act and find the whereabouts of that person, said Jianchen. Patriarch Lan let out a light laugh. She said, You want me to act personally just to find the whereabouts of a single person? You're the first person in countless years to do so. This junior also knows that this is disrespectful to senior, but the friend that has been abducted is just too important to this junior. I hope that Patriarch Lan can assist me, Jianchen pleaded. Whatever. Seeing how your 3 kilograms of soil of god blood has resolved the urgent situation of my Tianhe clan, I will naturally help you. Where was your friend abducted? Patriarch Lan asked. In the Ice Goddess Hall. Ice Goddess Hall? Why would it be there? Patriarch Lan frowned before murmuring. When the Empyrean Demon Lord invaded the Ice Goddess Hall in the past, he destroyed all of the Flame Reverend's arrangements. Even all the experts the Flame Reverend had planted there failed to escape. In other words, it shouldn't have been the Flame Reverend's people. After a moment of thought, Patriarch Lan suddenly formed a hand seal. She cast one seal after another into the cauldron, making it revolve on its own. Afterwards, she waved her hand, and a powerful force immediately swept Jianchen away. Jianchen only felt his vision blur. When it cleared up again, he was outside the Ice Goddess Hall. My soul has fused with the world, resonating with the ways of the world. I can see through the past and the future. Let's see if I can find traces of that person, said Patriarch Lon. Ancestor Lon said. Immediately, a dense law of the great path emanated from her body. It was as if she could already represent the supreme order of the world to a certain extent. Of course, this was only to a certain extent. Compared to a true grand exalt, the difference between them was like heaven and earth. In this state, the various matters of the past replayed in Patriarch Lan's head like the pages of a book. None of the matters in the past could hide from her senses. Jianqin waited to one side anxiously. He was both nervous and eager. He hoped that Patriarch Lan would live up to his expectations and lock onto the identity of the hooded expert. If she did not even know who the person was, it would be impossible for her to save him. A while later, Patriarch Lan opened her eyes again. A strange light flashed through her bright eyes, and she said, "There's a Grand Prime behind the scenes who has removed all traces of that person. And this person is not weak either. He's a mid-Grand Prime at the very least." Jianqin's face changed drastically. What he worried about the most still happened, but he still looked at Patriarch Lan with a final sliver of hope. "Patriarch Lan, do you have any clues?"